And then it should hopefully be there.
No, I don't need it. Oh, it is there. Yay!
Yay, figuring out technology again. Whoa! You're supposed to be muted.
Most named.
I did say muted. Well, another month gone.
Yeah, we're into August. There we go. We're all set up.
We are
Picture
set
always
up.
looks so good on here.
What?
Hello.
Hey, JC, how you doing?
Hopefully things are good.
Yeah. Hopefully the start of August is treating you well. We can't believe it's August already.
It's pretty hard to believe it is August.
I know.
That means that September is coming, and then October, and then winter.
Still smoky. I bet tonight we actually were commenting as we were doing up chores before our live. The sun, as it was setting, was like this crazy red color.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about the fact that it must be smoky again.
And we're really far from the fires. So
yeah.
I couldn't imagine what it's like close up.
Hey, Wicked Awesome Gardening. But yeah, it has felt like fall the last little bit. Although saying that, today was warm. And I think the rest of this week we're supposed to be kind of normal August temperatures. I think we're supposed to be 28, 29.
After the last 2 weeks here, it's felt very fall-like.
Yeah. And the nights, it's dropping down to like 13, 14, which
August usually does, for us anyways, August does usually have that little dip. But
yeah, 17. Wow, that's
pretty crazy though if your trees are already starting to change color.
For August, and holy.
We notice sometimes the end of August in the swamps and stuff where you get the maples, they sometimes change early, but usually everything else is a little later. But,
yeah. Fahrenheit. I'm trying to think of what that is. Fahrenheit. I'm terrible. Is that around 60? 60? No, it's got to be more than that. Don't
have a conversion thing.
We need a little we have a thermometer downstairs that has. She's going to Google it. Yeah, Google that. I'm not sure what it actually is. I'm terrible. But that's crazy that you were even getting the wildfire smoke. I mean, I can't imagine what it must be like in California when they've got them.
Well, I think it's one of those years where, and I don't follow the news as much as I should, but it seems like there's wildfires kind of everywhere. Mm-hmm. So I think there's big chunks of North America that are
burning.
Well, burning, but also getting the smoke influence.
Yeah.
At least that's what it certainly sounds like.
Well, we definitely notice every now and then you get a day where it's quite hazy. 62. I was pretty close. Yeah, I thought it was around 60. But yes, you're right. For August, that's crazy temperature.
We've had some of our vegetables. Some things are doing amazing because they like it cooler, and some things are they're still doing well, but it's like the tomatoes. They're just not ripening at all.
The tomatoes are they're loaded with fruit, but there is no, other than my cherry tomatoes, but even they're slow. Mm-hmm. But just hey, honey badgers, the color is, they're just not turning. But on the flip side, our lettuces and spinach and everything are amazing. And they don't get the bitter taste or anything. They just keep growing and growing. And
well, pretty much all of July we had so much rain.
Yeah,
which is
absolutely
contrast to some areas, but
been fantastic for the greens, the vegetable greens. Saying that, our peas really were a dud.
Yeah, they're just starting to take off now. We planted them kind of normal time, beginning of May, or beginning through mid-May. Mm-hmm. And they just really haven't done anything up until now.
Yeah, it's been a slow summer for them anyways. But you know what? It's okay. I'll take it because...
at that point where things are going to go absolutely crazy.
Yeah, everything's going to ripen all at the same time. And then it'll be, just insane with canning and trying to preserve it all and whatnot.
We'll see what happens with tonight's one, because we set it up on the phone. And last week, anyways, because we've had this issue with the microphones and the computers. You set it up on your phone to schedule for later last week, and it didn't work, and we had to do a new one. And if we set it up on the on the computer, then we can't get into it on the phone. It's really kind of
We're not very
awkward.
tech savvy, and then it ends up being a case that we lose. If we set it, there's probably a way to do it on my phone, but for some reason we have not figured it out. We set one up in StreamYard, and then I couldn't on my phone connect to it to go live, so then we had to start another one. And then we the same thing happened with YouTube. We set it up earlier in the morning and announce, what do you call it? It's not announcing it, but scheduling it. And then it ended up that I couldn't log into that one to actually go live.
So we're just doing something wrong.
We're just yeah, it's probably us completely, but it was easier to just go live instead of announcing it ahead of time tonight. So we'll see how this works, because yeah, we kind of have been crazy busy with so much stuff that we ended up skipping last week, and so we'll see. It may be just a nice little tight-knit group tonight. That's okay though.
Nothing wrong with that.
One thing I was going to say when we were talking about the weather is our pastures are doing amazing. So that is definite plus to this weather. Our gardens may be just producing a lot of greenery, and it's kind of annoying, and tons of foliage, but that's also amazing in the pastures, because we take the sheep off and a week later that is growing like mad again. Hey, Hitcha Chick, how you doing? We're glad people are finding us today, even though we didn't do the scheduled. Gardens here are now bolting. Yeah. So
are you guys starting to get more heat then? Like kind of a more normal summer, I guess, if they're bolting a bit, or or you mean bolting is in they're really starting to just take off in a good way?
our lettuce and that sort of stuff's all bolting, in the sense it's getting really tall, but it's still tasty.
I was looking at the lettuce that we've got for seed, and it's really slow even to flower.
We're waiting forever because it'd be nice to get it out and put something else in its spot.
Which I suppose is a good thing.
Well, yeah.
In some ways. If you want lettuce that takes forever, because that'll stay as a nice...
Yeah, exactly. Glad you are doing well, Hitcha Chick. We've enjoyed some of your comments on our recent videos. It's definitely been fantastic to have your feedback, and also to kind of give some thoughts for you. I think it's been really good. So...
Well, it's good that it's in a normal way, where it's just kind of doing what it's supposed to do. We were looking at the yellow crooked neck squash tonight. We've had, what, 2 off of it? It's just starting.
Yeah, 2 crooked neck squashes.
Like tons on the brink of getting big enough.
I am jealous, Red in the Valley, because our tomatoes are all just so green, so green.
Well,
even the ones that we tried, that subarctic plenty, which was supposed to be, hey, Brampton Gardener, an early, be ready in 52 days, and they're all green. They're just not
it's
ripening.
Loaded with tomatoes. But...
Just covered. I mean, we've taken all the foliage off. I'm kind of trying to...
force the plant.
Shock it a little bit, stress it. That's the word I was looking for.
But it was quite the.
But it was
quite the
load of foliage.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, everybody sees it in our jungle videos.
And I'm going to knock on wood. Despite the fact that I've seen other people talking about hornworms, we haven't had any. So. No.
Although I still didn't pick up my one pile of leaves that I left beside it, which I'm bad for. But sorry, I'm going back to read, because we got to have a little bit here.
If we look off to the side,
it's just we're reading the chat on that one. But no, the tomato sandwich, we are waiting for the tomato sandwich. Our cherry tomatoes are doing good, although everybody in the family goes and nabs them off of the plant, and so they kind of disappear and are gone pretty quick. But that's okay.
Hello, Drops.
Hey, Drops. Sorry, what was the...
Yeah, it does feel like it's been a while.
Wicked Awesome Garden. Lettuce gave up 2 months ago.
See, that's more normal.
And that's ours usually would too. We were even thinking about having to grow it inside this summer to keep it going all summer.
When it got hot, and it never really did.
So
it just kept raining.
Yes, thumbs up. Thank you. We are doing awesome. We have almost as many thumbs up as people. That's incredible. We don't usually end up with that. So thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully everybody's, I guess it's really the last 2 weeks have been pretty good. Since we didn't do our live last week.
Yeah.
But
I'll be honest, we were really, really terrible, and I wanted to go and have sushi. So we did. We don't treat ourselves very often.
We did that on Tuesday night.
Didn't we?
No, it wasn't Tuesday. That wasn't what we did.
Oh, what day did we go have sushi?
It was later in the week, I think.
Oh, I thought we went for sushi on Tuesday, but we didn't.
We've just been milling around a lot of ideas and thoughts.
We needed a break. It was just one of those. We've had so much up and downs, I think I would say, in the last 2 weeks, trying to figure out what we're going to do. I know we love sushi, and we were so glad to be able to I'm bouncing around, get back into actually going in to eat it, because there's nothing, I don't like bringing sushi home. It never tastes the same as when you eat it when it's fresh made there, I think. So the end of lockdown for that purpose was really, really good. But yes, we probably ate more sushi than we should have, but we were saying it's been over 2 years since we had been.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Been to
something completely un-homestead related.
Yeah, totally not homestead related, but
But that's part of the, what did I say in the one video? The balance.
Yeah, finding the balance, because sushi is something we cannot grow and make ourselves.
Nobody can grow themselves.
No. Although we did
sushi.
make sushi once with rabbit meat, like not raw. We cooked it and we made like rolls with barbecued rabbit in it. It was really good.
Yeah, it was good.
Yes.
That's funny. Brampton Gardner's comment about the Asian grocery store, but not a lot of the ambience. But if it's good, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I see you. You said you pulled your kale plants out yesterday. Were they still like growing, or they were pretty much done? Ours are funny because the ones that the red Russian kale that went to seed, we snipped all the seed heads off of it. I still have a couple to process to see what the final total is on the weight on the seeds we got. But it's continued to grow, and we've been picking like baby kale off of it.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Gorgeous, like little. It looks like it's just baby kale you'd pulled out of the thing. And I think since we snipped the seed heads off, it's grown like this big mass. It looks like a big kale bush.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious if it's going to just stay alive and go again next year, because I've heard people say that it can do that. Just harvest seeds off and it's still growing. Yeah. See, yours survives the winter. The patch that's doing really well is the one that did make it through the winter.
Ours will survive here, but we found out last year we have to protect it, not from the cold, but to keep it dry.
Yeah.
It doesn't like a freeze thaw, and that just seems to the whole plant rots. But if it's kept dry, like we had it under the cover, like the plastic row cover, and it did really well.
I see drops there.
That's pretty
3 years old. So that'd be kind of interesting if ours, if we can get it to stay alive like that. That'd be kind of neat.
Oh, congratulations, Hitchy Chick.
Yes.
Celebrated their 35th anniversary.
Oh, went to a new restaurant.
Atmosphere was great, but the food was terrible.
Oh.
Well, that's never good. Well, it's good in one sense, I suppose.
Yeah.
50% good.
Well, yeah, that's just it. And the worst bit is, well, I don't know if it's the same for you, but here you have this buildup because it's been so long since we've been allowed to go eat in a restaurant that everything, like, you want it to be amazing because it's your, it seems like a real treat to go now, I guess.
And say, we're doing pretty good tonight. I think a few things have been sorted. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, we've
or
got
on the way to being sorted. So that's a big
yes,
a big plus.
Our efforts to do a bit of changes around here and whatnot have been
hi, Cruzy.
Really, really discussed in the where's the ketchup? We almost debated taking a picture of a ketchup bottle to put on the thingy, like the jar of ketchup, but
we weren't quite that ambitious.
And I only make homemade ketchup. We don't actually. I did go and look for a squeezy bottle, like
just to put it there.
Yeah, but I couldn't find one,
which is a good thing, I suppose, in a way. But
it's been a long time since we bought ketchup.
I was going to go back to Tracy's comment. So we don't have actual proper row covers. All we did was it was basically vapor barrier. Like a bit of a heavier, I don't know what thickness, but it was a heavier vapor barrier. And the cabbage and the kale did amazing under it because, like Drop said, it's good to zone, I think he said zone 6. So we're pushing it, but it's not the cold that seems to be the problem. It seemed to be the wet because you'd get throughout the winter, you'd kind of get these, it would warm up and then cool down, warm up and cool down. And when it warmed up, it melted, got down and around the plant, and they just all rotted. So anything that was left out and exposed just disintegrated. But whatever we had covered, I mean, we lost a couple of the small ones.
But
it was amazing how well they all bounced back. So we just kind of like bent the plant down and propped it back up again. and they did really well.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of just used vapor barrier for that. It wasn't I say row cover, but it's not a proper row cover.
Mm-hmm.
But it works well for that purpose.
Yes,
Now
I do
we're
want
behind.
to see Redden Valley. The Kajari melons. Our Kajari melons are so not doing well.
Well, you say
Well,
that they've grown. They're
recently, but I think it's just the lack of heat. They just haven't had anything push them to really
go.
do anything.
But they've
It's the same
bounced
thing with
back.
our watermelons. They're going up the vine. They're covered in blossoms, but they're so small.
Mhm.
Like considering they normally go up and over the arch.
There's
This
still
year
time.
they're just like halfway up, but they do have lots of blossoms. But I don't know if they will ripen in that time. It just seems to be, you know. But like Thorhaven is saying about his harvesting his beans, our bean trellises are like you can't even see the trellises. They're just covered
Especially
in
your
greens and
Bama's
flowers.
beans, yeah.
So we're gonna get hit, but we're
With
a
a
little
lot.
bit behind. I don't know if didn't seem like we were late planting. It just seemed like everything was really slow to go, and then boom, it went.
Mhm.
So
Went insane. But
Yeah.
we were looking at that actually. We filmed a video that we haven't posted yet, but we were kind of looking at the garden because we keep thinking, oh, it's full of weeds, it's full of weeds, and it actually isn't. It's full of vegetation from the plants we're growing,
Mhm.
but it's just an impenetrable. All of them, every garden is just an impenetrable, massive
oh
green.
yeah,
But I'll check out back here a bit.
we did. What was the other thing that? Oh, we had to pull our turnips. Our
yes.
turnips
They
were
starting. A couple of them started to rot, and I don't know exactly why. I think part of it was damage from earwigs, and that just.
Oh, I don't know if
allowed things to
anybody
get down
else
in.
is having the earwig issues, but oh my gosh,
There's
it's
earwigs
just
everywhere.
They're everywhere. It's so disgusting. I mean, you go to peel some lettuce off your plant and it's got earwigs and you're shaking things off. I know it's not like it's going to kill you, but it's just gross.
Brampton Gardener's going to harvest your first kohlrabi. So we will tell you right now. We cheated because we've harvested some, but we're going to leave it at that because
And we're ready. We're going to do a kohlrabi review. We've got them ready. Yes, so do a kohlrabi review. We're gonna do it. I was going to do it this weekend, film it and whatnot, and then we didn't actually eat them.
That far.
But we did harvest them, so we've got some information on that, and then we're gonna do a taste test. I think it'll be fun.
Oh, Honey Badgers is having nights where it's down to
Oh my
9
goodness.
degrees. That's
Yeah.
really quite cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Thorhaven, you said you hated earwigs in Ontario. Are there not earwigs in Quebec?
Or maybe not where they are, because you guys are drier, like a bit sandier. You might not have, I don't know, enough moisture to keep them, because they really like
Yeah, maybe.
moisture. I'm trying to
I'm
think.
like, oh, man,
I don't know if they're all that common everywhere in Ontario, just southern Ontario.
Oh, well, we're getting hit huge with the earwigs. Every time you lift a rabbit hutch lid, every time you go to dig something in the garden, they just are scattering
covered in
like
it.
mad. Oh,
Yeah, they just fall out of everything.
yeah.
Falling out of the petunias is kind of funny in a way. Earwigs falling out of flowers.
Oh.
But I can see it.
Well, hopefully the potting your beans will work, Brampton Gardener. I mean,
That's-
it's sort of...
It's good that your broccoli's gotten quite big, but yeah, we went and inspected ours again, and it actually has bounced back. The plant has bounced back
From
quite a
the
bit
moths.
from the cabbage white damage, but they're not producing anything.
No, we get there's a little tiny head, a huge plant with just a little
And
tiny
they
bit
were
of broccoli, and that's
supposed
it.
to be a dwarf plant, so I'm
Yeah,
not sure
they're
that they were
massive.
exactly as
But in all
advertised.
fairness, all the animals love to eat the plants, so we've just been feeding them. It's become fodder.
But,
pretty much.
and I think we've talked about that before. That's one of the changes. We're
Yeah.
probably going to skip the broccoli.
Yeah,
Instead of skip the dishes, skip the broccoli.
skip the broccoli. But
in favor of some other brassicas.
exactly. Well, that's a waste.
Yeah, we have some that are the same.
Yeah.
My
My San Marzanos are just they're huge, but
They
they're
have some
just getting
tomatoes on
fruit.
the
Yeah,
bottom, but they're just starting
just
to really
starting
get
to
going.
really get going.
Yeah, but it's that same thing. They were just slow.
The what's the one that Crucy has? It's the same as us.
Jealous that Thorhaven doesn't have earwigs.
The white Thomasel.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have some really nice ones growing on the vine. I took off the vegetation to have a look, and there's actually quite a few, which I'm super pleased with.
We're excited to see what happens with that.
Yeah, so hopefully they will. Yes, so hopefully yours will do well too, because so far they look really nice and they're they're quite a decent sized tomato so far. They're still green. They haven't done anything like that. But
no, but we're gonna get hit with all the tomatoes are gonna be ready at the
and
same
all
time.
the plants, like they've busted my cages over. Like they've just flopped right
Well,
over.
yeah,
They're
the
so,
ones that are in the cages.
they're so full of food. The ones on the trail, well, no, they're out of control too. We did. We were tagged in a challenge with
CGM Farm started
the good, the bad, and the ugly of your garden. And my tomatoes made the bad, ugly section. So you'll have to see how poorly I looked after my tomatoes this year. They're out of control, and it's bad. And I don't think we can come back from it.
Meh, it's all right.
It would be such a battle to get in there.
Out of control tomatoes are not exactly the worst problem to have.
Well, that's true, yes.
Because it usually means you end up with a lot of fruit. It's just getting the fruit.
Yes.
That becomes the hard part.
I'm enjoying some of the jokes about the earwigs getting to Quebec. I'm enjoying that. That's quite funny.
Well, they would have to cross a bridge. Right?
Well, and they'd have to speak French. I'm liking that, yep. Getting stopped at the border. No. So, anyways, going back to the challenge. So, spoiler alert.
Okay, there is earwigs, but not there. I wondered though, because you guys are so like you that sandy, drier environment, like with all the blueberries and stuff, right? I was wondering if that would really be conducive to earwigs. They don't seem to do well in those kind of.
No, they like
you
the
probably
damp.
have some, but
or if you got a pile of damp wood somewhere, they're probably in there. But that'd be about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just awful this year with them. They're thick everywhere.
They're not damaging too much. The turnips was one big one because they were going down into the tops, like where the greens come out, and chewing around where the leaves attach to the base of the top of the turnip.
Yeah. Yeah, they just would go right down into the bottom of the leaf and just
because we've been getting so much rain, I think what was happening was they were damaging part of that, and then it was allowing the rot to get in. But we only lost, I think it was about 4. We didn't have a huge bed of turnips, but
no, and we need to plant some more for fall, but
we'll have time because they'll probably do quite well.
Yeah. Hey, little garden, big dreams. How are you doing tonight? I'm glad to see you. I know we missed last week, so it's good to catch up with everyone because, and you know, we definitely apologize. Sometimes it just ends up being that things just get going, and yeah, we'd. I don't know. It just kind of was a.
I'm intrigued on the banana slurry, which makes sense because you'd be giving them the potassium, right?
Yeah. And gave you just.
And Drop says, "Only French I know is what my wife screamed at me when she got mad." I find it kind of interesting because, well, not so much anymore, but when the kids were younger, they're in French immersion, so they speak it, and it's like I actually know a little bit. We remember some of it.
We both took French through school, so then you end up you forget it because you don't talk it. But then when the kids start talking it, some of it comes back. Not much, but
some.
Yeah. Oh, so everybody's doing this, but we've never done a banana slurry. How come we've never done a banana slurry?
I never thought about it.
This
is the thing about the things you learn.
Yeah. We might have to try that for next year. Saying that, we're not having any problem with production or the plant.
Oh, banana peels. Okay. That's actually a good idea.
I think it's just a case of, basically, spoiler alert, I did not take suckers off of any of my tomatoes this year. It just kind of, time got away because they were so slow to get going, and then they got going right when everything else was going, and it ended up that they are... bad.
They're just massive.
They're just massive. There's so much, and now it's to the point that the suckers are covered in fruit. So I'm like, I can't rip them off now because there's fruit on them. So we're now trying to baler twine up everything.
Oh shucks, it's a terrible, terrible problem to have.
It is, because it happens every year when I did the Romas, and then frost would come and none of them would be ready, and we'd be struggling to try and figure out what we're going to do with a whole bunch of green tomatoes.
Meh.
So anyway,
still not the end of the world.
No, just let them go. Yeah.
Tomato monsters.
Oh, well, they are going. I tell you, I can't get in there, so I'm not like, you can't even. Well, I tried to chase the chickens out of the mist
the San Marzanos. We put 2 cattle panels, and what's about 3 feet between them.
Yep.
and that's not enough.
No.
They probably needed like 10 feet between them. The way they've grown, maybe not quite that much, but well, that's good that your Romas are just starting to produce.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think it just depends on where you are, whether you're starting to get tomatoes or not. But
Yeah.
we're very, very close. There's going to be some.
Oh,
Our Black Prince tomatoes, they were planted over by the chicken
And the blue
coop.
ones. The blue ones are almost ready.
The blue ones are coming. I can't remember what the blue ones are called, but the Black Prince that we grow, we planted them by the chicken coop, but then the apple tree fell down. So they didn't get damaged, but they kind of got shaded a little bit for a while.
Well, they're kind of buried under the apple tree, so we haven't even checked. There could be tomatoes on them for all we know.
have to
but
go
we
and
can't
prune
get it
some
to
of the
them.
apple tree to get at them.
Yeah,
so
and it just hasn't
they
been,
have their own little tomato
yeah.
haven underneath the dead apple tree.
But the chickens are doing a fantastic job. The little they're how old are those chicks? I don't know. They're like I'll base it on height. They're about maybe 8 inches tall, the chicks. They've got their feathers and everything. But anyways,
Yeah,
they now
still
go
pretty
out
young,
from their nighttime pen into the garden,
they're
and
a
they
little bit
work
bigger than quail size.
Yeah,
so
and they
don't dig
work
too much.
under all the beans and peas and tomatoes, and they're doing a fantastic job.
And they're
in there.
young enough; they don't kill it all.
Yeah, so we're quite pleased with their work in there because I think they're helping with a lot of the bug situation.
But it is a jungle. But
Yeah, you can't find them in there. You just hope they go back to bed.
that's kind of cool to have a moose in your garden eating your beefsteak tomato plants. Cool in one sense, maybe not cool in another, but got a bunch more trees. Yeah, no, that's a good idea. That's the one sort of plus to the fact that the apple tree kind of half fell apart is that it opens up the light from that side of the
Blends.
But at the same time, it kind of sucks that we lost the apple tree. That being said, how many pounds of apples have you made into things?
So, well, I've only made applesauce. I haven't been weighing what we picked for the pigs.
No.
But for applesauce, I've done almost 60 pounds off of that tree that fell into the garden.
Which is pretty
that
good.
I've managed to harvest that didn't get damaged or bruised or buggy or anything like that. And then the pigs have had, I want to say, at least 10 5-gallon pails. At least. Plus what falls out there that the sheep eat. So it's been great.
Have a good night, Brampton Gardener. No problem at all. It is a weeknight, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming in.
Mm-hmm. Bunch more trees. Sorry, I'm going back to read.
Cutting some trees for sun and planting more trees for shade. That's the thing, though. It's getting stuff where you want.
Well, and you've got a lot of the big your spruce trees, right?
Mm.
A lot of spruce, which really shade. So sometimes it's nice to have
open some up
and plant some strategic ones, like you're saying. And sometimes leafy trees are nice too, because in the wintertime, then you've got the sun coming in, which is nice.
That'll be interesting to take the Romas inside. Hopefully, you don't end up with aphids or something on them. I don't know if tomatoes are really all that bad for aphids, but
the Romas.
Drops was saying he's got them in pots. Our yellow pear-shaped tomato, it's actually starting to produce, and they're actually quite good because we've only eaten 3 so far, but I think
loaded with fruit though. It's just only 3 have ripened
so far, but I think it'll do in the future. They'll do way better in the ground than in the pot. It just seems it's growing well, but it's got like a weird growth habit. It stayed really short and bushy, which I guess is good in one sense. But oh, nice! Went out and harvested apples.
Yeah,
saw some juice. The juice is actually really kind of fun when you have a lot of them because they don't even have to be perfect, right? Because you're just pressing out the juice, so then you're left with the pulp, and you kind of filter it, and you can make a lot of juice.
Oh, we made
not there yet because most of the apples. Well, the one that fell down wasn't.
But they ripened beautifully, like into night. Like a lot of them are nice, big. It's got to be a golden delicious tree. So I'm really hoping we can salvage from the branches that are still left and get it going again. It'll be a couple of years, obviously, but
maybe sooner than you think.
There's still the one piece that's still standing. Thanks for coming in, Thorhaven.
Yeah, good night. Thank you.
The hound's been waking you at 4 a.m. That's no good.
Uh-oh. Is that because of something outside or just wants to go outside?
Yeah, that's no good. But yes, the one piece of the tree that's still up is 30 some feet tall, and there you can just see all this big, beautiful fruit at the top. But the only option is to let it fall. I've got no way to get it. So, anyways, I keep going out every morning, and yeah, they're bruised, but they're still perfect for applesauce. So I've been collecting. We did another batch we did raspberry applesauce today. Made a couple jars of that.
Yeah, because the Killarney raspberries we planted this spring, they weren't supposed to really produce this year, but they've been producing like mad.
Well, I think if your dog wants to sleep in the bed, you're out of luck. We have that problem with cats. There's just no hope.
Oh yeah, you have to lock them in another room. A room completely.
Yeah, but
at least it's only one dog. Although dogs are bigger than cats, but we've got too many cats to try to sleep in bed.
Yes, thank goodness some are outside now. But push over. Yeah, push over exactly, Red Valley. So you got no choice.
So what have we
well
decided or been up to, I guess? I know, I'll go with one thing that we just made a decision on. We don't have the tractor anymore.
Did we not have it gone last time?
No, because it was the weekend before our last live would have been.
Okay.
Yeah. So we don't have a tractor anymore.
Yeah, we sold the tractor and all its implements.
Yep.
So it no longer sits with all of its pieces in the yard, and we're quite happy about that. No more procrastinating, saying, well, if the tractor would run, we could get such and such done. What is the what's drops chopping?
6 feet above the ground. Oh, he's talking about the apple tree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then it'll get new. Well, it already has some.
It's got
some
new
branches
shoots coming from
because
where the one.
It basically had like two big main branches, and then in the crotch of the tree, which there was a third that had fallen off. It's already got the shoots coming up, so we've already got some growth. But yeah, I am seriously considering this fall / winter maybe cutting the other piece off.
The other piece off, and
just so that it
happens.
Doesn't damage it, and you actually can maybe.
You need to build him a ramp, Thorhaven.
Then he can come and go whenever he
Yeah,
wants.
then he won't disturb you at all. Just a nice little ramp. People that we know have a thingy for their older cat to get up on the bed. It's a ramp at the end that the cat uses to get on the bed. It's perfect. That's what you need. Then he doesn't wake you up trying to get on the bed.
So as far as the tractor goes, basically this goes into some of the other changes, but because of the fact that it never really worked half the time,
we were doing it by hand
anyways. So we've just changed focus on what we need it for.
Yeah, I mean, it did a decent amount of work last year, but then this whole year we've been pretty much fencing everything. We've even the driveway. It was supposed to be there for plowing snow, and it would never start, so we always did it by hand. So we're resorting back to manpower or smaller machines, basically.
That big fan of small machines. I have a still weed eater, the one.
Hey, Davis Family Life.
I forget the name of it, but the one that has the attachments that you can change.
Still.
No, but I don't. The model of that weed eater.
Oh, okay.
But it's the one that has the interchangeable heads, and I bought a second head with the cutting blade, and we went out and basically did a little bit of cleanup.
He did by hand with the brush cutter blade. He ended up cutting the whole pasture pretty much faster than the tractor would have done it. So it was pretty impressive. And
probably for less gas.
Yeah, less gas, and the piece was only 120 something bucks. It was like, why didn't we do this before? But
it's kind of all about the thinking smaller. I guess. So we'll see how that goes, but. The one piece that was nice about it was the post hole digger, but again, we've dug so many fence posts here without it that we're just going to slowly work away at it. Yeah. Basically.
Yeah, we've kind of basically said, well, that was a big job that we worked on this weekend, was we got the sheep out in a huge fence that we just used all of our temporary net fencing and just built a huge fifth pasture? I don't know. Not sure. Another big pasture that they've never been on before. So they are happy and set for a while, which will give us time to actually do some of the manhole digging. fence stuff because we've got 2 more new edition sheep coming on Sunday. So we're trying to get organized for 2 new rams, which will be exciting.
Yeah, will help with the sheep endeavor.
Just read a little bit here.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when things don't work, when machines work, they're great because they help you save time.
And if you're able to do the work yourself, it's fine. But I mean, we basically are very, very unmechanically inclined, and the tractor was just kind of constantly in need of a little tinkering. I think that's something that old tractors do.
Oh yeah,
and it was one of those, we weren't capable of it, so.
And we're not really in a position to get a newer tractor.
No,
so
no. Well, and you couldn't justify spending on a newer tractor for us. It doesn't mean
you would never get one, but that's still cost-benefit ratio thing.
Yeah. But then it ends up being, after you have the mechanic come out to get it running, and you get kind of a time, you anticipate spending $1,000 a year on work on it and so on and so on, and it's just like, it's not worth it for us to keep going with it. This is part of our figuring out budgets and sustainability and working
what makes the most sense for your efforts too, for lack of a better way to put it.
So the tractor was a big one that we got rid of. We had the brush cutter, snow blower, the blade, the post hole auger, the bale spear for the round bales. Everything was with it, and it's just all gone. But it's amazing how much space that took up in the yard. Like now we're just like, wow, we could build a whole nother garden.
True.
So
we probably will.
And we probably will. Yeah, we'll probably build another garden because why not?
Because that's something we have also decided, without going into any details, is to expand gardens.
Yeah.
Not expand for this growing season, but we have some plans. So we'll see how that goes.
I'm just sorry because drops out. We're very happy with what we got for the tractor. Basically, the tractor came with the property, so we had put money into it, but we were quite happy with what we got.
It was one of those, we'd invested some money and effort to get some things fixed because we inherited some problems, and those were fixed. But then at what point do you just kind of cut your losses when you can't do it yourself?
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I don't know. It's nice to be a jack of all trades, but sometimes you can't be.
Well, yeah, definitely not when it comes to that sort of stuff, because you need to be able to do it right. And if you don't have time to figure it out, then you don't have time.
And a spot, because that's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
We didn't
want to invest in a garage,
but we would realistically have to invest in another outbuilding.
Well, the tractor couldn't go into the barn.
It could, but you'd be taking something else's place.
Yeah. But anyway, so that was kind of a big decision on our part that we hummed and hawed on, and then just deciding on money and whether to spend. It went. So that was kind of the first step.
That's a big one. But I think the
gardens.
Yeah, the expanding the gardens, I think, is gardens in general, whether it's annual gardens, perennial gardens, permaculture gardens, it doesn't matter. From a money saving perspective, and you say this all the time, not time.
No, if you factor in your time on a garden, it's not saving you anything.
But at the same time, for what you can produce for that time, I can say that loosely because it depends on your situation and how well certain things grow in that, but you can produce a lot.
Oh yeah.
In a smaller space, but yeah, I definitely agree with Plans Promised Land there. That's what community and homesteading is so necessary. Very, very true. It's interesting. We were talking to some people that we know recently, and they made the comment that they feel very, I'm not going to say who they were or anything like that, but it was an interesting conversation, that they feel very alone sometimes in what they're doing because of the choice to homestead.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't understand it.
No.
Why you spend that time.
In our area, I'm going to say it that way. There is lots of people that garden, have chickens, that sort of thing. But a lot of people who do, I'm going to say farming, because everybody kind of in our area equates it to farming, are a bit more on the how do I make money farming than how do I save money, because it's like the number of people in our area who are farming and don't have gardens and don't even eat their beef, or like,
No, they just sell it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just different. It's not wrong. It's not bad. It's just different.
Eldan, this is exactly, and it's interesting because I would still, I know it sounds silly, but in the internet world, you're still a neighbor, and that's something that's very, we're finding more and more people that are close enough to still build the community. Can I call you to come fix my tractor? Probably not, but it's still something.
There's other things.
Yeah, there's other parts that as you get to know people and build it, it comes. And I think, we are kind of spread out, some of us here in Ontario, but yeah.
Yeah, Bland's has a good cutting 3 to 5 acres every Saturday. Yeah, we're not quite that bad right where we are. A lot of our neighbors either don't have very big yards, but
you get close to the city and it's those 5-acre manicured lawns, and you're just like, why?
Dan, we're not quite industrial. Dairy in our area isn't pretty big. I'm not gonna say industrial.
Most of our
pretty big. Most of around here it's beef, small scale beef, like crossbred herds, and I'll be honest, I don't know how a lot of them make it work. Not saying that in a bad way, just I don't know.
Not around here. If you're buying hay and all that sort of stuff, it's
Well, but that's the other thing.
I
right?
agree. Drops. It just makes me. Especially rural ones. When we drive by people that live rurally, we're like, "Why did you move rural if you're just going to manicure and cut this huge lawn?" Anyway,
we don't even cut our front lawn.
We don't cut.
But not much.
The only time we cut is to bag food to feed stuff. We don't cut our grass unless there's something that needs to eat it, basically. Yeah. And it works. It's our
I think we talked about this in a live maybe a month ago. We did a thing with the kids where they were looking to see just what you can see from the road on a drive nearby from a close town, and how many people had gardens.
And it was sad.
And very few of them did. It was it was pretty crazy. At least that you could see. I will say that at least that you could see from the road. Some people could have had stuff that you couldn't see. But
I was going to go back also. I meant to comment on it. It's kind of just buzzed by. But Tracy was talking about they were expanding their gardens as well. And it's a big job. But the one thing that we're going to make sure is we do that expansion now for next year, because our biggest problem this spring that just kind of pushed us over the edge was we were building gardens as we needed to plant stuff, and it was awful.
Well, but it was doable.
It was doable, but it was just awful. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to it because there's been some really good comments here. I think Red in the Valley is the difference between farming and homesteading. I agree. I think it has kind of been lost. And this is the whole thing about where we say, looking at it from I say saving money, you're still spending money, especially if you have animals. You're still spending money, but you have to look at what can you keep going for a reasonable cost that's still going to produce you X amount of food. And it could be anything, because this is something, I'm not going to go down too far yet because there's been some other good comments, but we've gone down and looked at I'm going to pick on the animals more than the gardens. And you're looking at each individual enterprise, or whatever you want to call it, and looking at what does it bring in, how much does it cost to run it, how self-sustaining can we be, it's all how much time, the danger factor, because that's a piece that people sometimes forget about too. And you're trying to weigh out the pros and cons of what makes the most practical sense and is still enjoyable.
Yeah.
Because the enjoyment factor does factor into it.
Yeah.
That's where when people say we're...
Thanks for coming in, Tracy.
No, thank you very much. When people say we're hobby farm, it's well, yeah, you are doing it as a hobby, but you're doing it as a hobby.
Well, and it's a higher scale. Yeah. It's a higher scale than a hobby. I mean, you're still, I often think that when you're hobby farming, it doesn't matter whether you end up in the hole or whatever. You're a little bit
hobby farming. Yeah,
hobby farming. You're just doing because you enjoy doing it. when you're farming to feed yourself or homesteading, you still have to have it balanced in order to justify doing it.
Resources, return.
We're getting into a deep discussion again. All our lives end up this like deep, and it's just because that's the place we're at right now, is making some real hard decisions, and it's one of those, we have almost every night is a late night trying to just go over the same thing over and over and over, and looking for a different answer, or making sure that the answer you chose was the right answer.
You can look at the same thing 10 times and find 10 slightly different.
Thank you, Wicked Awesome Gardener. Exactly.
I do agree with your comment there that I think some of the rest of the world's missing it. Even I'm not saying this to be negative, but even sometimes the wider homesteading community, it's like, grow X amount of pounds of chicken in a year for X amount of dollars, and it's like, you're kind of, yes, you can do that, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
it's one that we often say we'd like to do a video on. Just
drops is the perfect way. Grow and raise enough to feed your family as efficiently and cost-wise for you, then look at expanding it to make a bit of extra money. Yeah. And I think we look at that. We're looking at that. Well, we've never gotten to that point, but that extra is enough to. It helps you cover some of your costs. It's like we use the chickens as a prime example. We don't have to buy chicks. We can produce X number of chickens. We have to float a breeding flock. That income from selling any breeding trios or whatever is basically
helps to reduce what it costs you to eat.
Yeah, basically. Because if it covers the cost of the breeding flock, then you've really you can really quickly reduce your overhead, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Is it free? No, not at all. But you can reduce it a lot without going into specifics. We do want to do that though, because the chickens are the one thing that we've all the way along, no surprise, but we've all the way along said that's the one livestock that's not even on the table to stop, because.
But it's one that you can do forever.
Yeah, you can do it forever. It can't exactly hurt you.
Yeah.
They give you 2 products. They are pretty efficient at helping to cover their costs. You're not making money raising chickens, but they definitely help cover their costs. And we've found you can pretty much, if you keep the dual purpose heritage flock, I say it that way, you don't have to buy too many all the time. You're not eating chicken for any more than what you would buy it in the grocery store, but you are better quality.
Yeah.
Or very little more than what you would buy it in the grocery store.
And not when you factor in the eggs. When you factor in eggs, you're eating a lot cheaper than what you could get it in the grocery store.
If you have all that stuff. Yeah. And I've missed some comments, so I'm going to go back. Eldan, yeah. Sometimes I think people do look at it like, oh, well, you're not a commercial farm. I'm going to say commercial. You're not a commercial farm because it's not always industrial.
Yeah.
You're not a commercial farm, so you're just a hobby farm.
Yeah.
And we've had people say that. It's like, oh, well, you're just doing it as a hobby anyways. And it's like...
Glenn said there too about the true homesteaders are trying to survive off the land, not make the big money. And that's what we try to get across. I mean, it is one of those things. Figure out what you actually need to grow and have, and then see if you can grow that within the means that you have. Because this is where we're going down the whole thing.
Or as much as you can. And this is where it's like, I'm going to use the sheep, because without going into a whole bunch of details, the sheep is a great example. We have enough land as we work on fences. We can float a flock of sheep, and we've kind of done the math on this, that will produce enough lambs a year that we can eat
real well.
Quite a bit. We can eat lamb as basically a staple.
They want to.
And the one thing is, we are always going to have to buy hay at this point, but the cost to buy hay for a flock of sheep is manageable, given when you look at the offset of what they provide for you. the amount of work, the danger factor, because that's part of it. Like when you look at all those pieces, they kind of become a really, and if we can do the dairy with them, which we've talked about a little bit, which isn't going to happen this year, but next year, then that's even, it's like you said about the eggs. Once you get
multiple products,
if it
that
works,
all of a sudden,
if it works to basically cost balance, that you're not spending a lot more money than you would to buy it just for the meat, that's great. If you're getting another product out of it, then that's even better.
Yeah. Well, and I think like Drops points out some things here too about the definitely having. I always say, well, you always say it too about, and I always get the saying wrong, fingers in all the baskets or whatever it is, having your hand in every pie. Come on, give me the saying.
Don't
What
put
is
all
it?
your eggs in one basket.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket. There you go.
You want some diversity for when you're homesteading. I think this is something too. You want a little bit of diversity so you have some resiliency, because that's one thing. I saw it there. There was a comment. I think it was Red in the Valley about, or maybe it was Eldan. Yeah, when you're large scale, you're doing what the experts tell you, which is somewhat true, because if you're going to be large scale, you have to be growing what the commodity market wants. I'm just going to put it that way. So it ends up, that's basically how monocultures start. And we are talking in some ways about simplifying the complexity on some things, but we're definitely not talking about a monoculture, because you don't want all your eggs in one basket, because at any given year, something could happen that you'll be happy you had the backup.
No, exactly. The 1-2, that's awesome. 7 Icelandics, that's a great herd to start with.
Yeah, that'll be a good start.
You're going to be in for some good times.
We definitely are.
Well, no, we started with 4.
Yeah.
And it escalated really quick. And now we have 26.
Yeah.
And we're getting 2 more on Sunday. So.
And yeah, that's the one for everybody who's in here right now. That's the one thing that...
we're probably actually going out. Are we going out El Dan's way to get the 2?
Yeah, we would be. We're going to...
We're going out your way, El Dan,
We're going towards Norland, which...
To pick up 2 sheep on Sunday. So 1-2's got 3 ewes and 1 ram. 3 for the freezer, and then 3 ewes and 1 ram. That's a great way to do it, because then you get the meat to try it. I don't know if you've tried Icelandic before. It's amazing.
If you haven't, you'll like it.
It is amazing. This is why, no matter what, every time we talk about blitzing out some animals or we can't do everything, everyone in the whole family says sheep have to stay. It doesn't matter. And
the really neat thing about the Icelandics that we say is probably one of their biggest sort of selling points from a homesteading perspective or smaller scale, because I will say this: the Icelandics don't work well for
Cliffside.
The Icelandics don't work well for producing lamb for market. You will get downgraded at the stockyard for them because they're not the right body frame. Let's put it that way. But they're edible at any age. They don't get them unless you like the mutton flavor.
Then you won't like them because they don't get that.
But they are very different from other sheep. And yeah, they're still big compared to like Shetlands and a lot of other or several other breeds, but they are a lot smaller than the big Suffolk sheep and that sort of thing.
You mean sugar bush? I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure.
Of course,
we have to look at a map. It's north of Lindsay on somewhere. Not exactly. We have to look it up again.
Yeah, we haven't. We're going on a road trip, anyways, because it's about 4 hours from us. But yeah. But yes, and lambing easily. I'm just kind of quickly catching on a few things here.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I mean, the more lambs you have born, the more chance you're going to have problems. But I would say, when I say that, you still don't have a lot of problems. First timers are probably your worst. It's not that they have lambing problems. It's like they don't know what they have to figure out that they're bonding with the lamb. Yeah, let's put it that way.
So and Bland's is there's not much sheep farmers out there.
No, they've really followed. Well, this is something that I find very interesting about livestock.
Yes, same guy. So is that who you got your sheep from?
That's funny if it is. He had two rams left, and we kind of went through our flock and looked at how related they were, and they were really good matches, so we're getting both of them.
Oh, raising bison. Where I used to live in Manitoba, there was huge bison farm not too far down the road. And I mean, I can't imagine how much pasture you need, but bison is amazing to eat. Oh,
That being said, there's no way we could do bison because
no,
this
we
is
don't have
something I
enough
was going
land.
to talk about the discussion, and I'm sorry if I'm missing anybody's comments because we've just gotten blabbing. But I was talking like about livestock. A lot. I think this is my personal opinion. From a true homesteading perspective, I don't think unless you're talking about using the animal for power and a lot of power, bigger's not necessarily better in my opinion because bigger's harder to pending your resources. I mean, if your homestead is 100 acres, maybe bigger's not a bad thing because you can tap into those markets to make extra income. But if you can't tap into those markets or you're a bit constrained for land, I think smaller is better to a point. It's a relative thing. But what's interesting about it is it's like if you look at countries where you don't have the industrial scale agriculture and you look at the livestock that they keep, they tend to be smaller, thriftier, not necessarily extreme of proportion for, huge, massive. It's like even the Icelandic sheep, they were pretty much in the summer. It's
Hey,
like
freehand made.
let them go. They go graze, and then you kind of bred them back. And
Herd them back, yeah.
There was very little historic intervention there for
Yeah.
a lot of their history.
So I'm not sure if I'm following the conversation exactly, but I think so. Eldan's sheep came from somebody who bought them from the guy that we're going to buy sheep from.
Oh, okay.
I think I got it right. Not sure.
Yeah, I do agree. Bison's really good, but I think it's like you say in Manitoba.
Oh yeah, Freehandly, you're a quilter. We're always in my quilt room because when the kids are here, we have shared custody. So every second weekend, the kids are here and they sleep upstairs. And if we're upstairs chit chatting,
for them.
They can't go to sleep. They want to know what we're doing. So, anyways, we are in the quilting area because that's the quietest spot that doesn't bother them. Because sometimes we chat for quite a while.
Bland's got a good point because bison are not exactly as domesticated as normal cattle. And do we give the Okay, so the other big decision that we've made is and some people are probably seeing this coming, and we're sorry, Blands, because we do like your channel and what you've got going on, but we're not going to continue with the bigger cattle. I'm going to say it that way. For now, we're not continuing with cattle. Period.
Doesn't mean down the road we won't change our minds because that's just how homesteading works. But
I don't think we'll go back to the large cattle, and
we're not.
It's a whole
cattle people,
but it's a whole lot of factors that we're not going to continue with. It. One is the size. We're not cattle people.
Yes, we're not cattle.
So that's
people.
a factor for us because a lot of people in the area have bulls and that sort of thing. There's kind of some logistical issues there, and we really didn't want to get into the AI stuff. A lot of people tell us just do AI, keep the cow.
Well, you couldn't do AI for the breed we had either.
But even to switch to a different breed or whatever, we kind of just decided that was going to be too much. And then it was a resource thing. It was kind of if we kept with cows, we definitely would not be doing sheep.
No.
And we just kind of made the decision that the sheep.
Hello, Chris's Clever Craft.
The sheep will produce what we need, a bit more economical, at least at this point.
Yeah.
Nothing against cows at all because we wanted it to work, but we just kind of have made that.
What
decision.
did Chrissy said he's seen some places doing the ostrich meat.
There's a pair of emus for sale near us.
No, we're not getting emus. No, we are
that's
not.
Good, all right.
But no, I'll let you kind of scan. I've kind of scanned through those, but it's funny that they couldn't buy one of the rams because it was related to theirs, Eldan. So we're kind of making our herd somewhat related, but it'll still work. We'll figure it out. But because we like the idea of trading sometimes, and then you're not exchanging money. It's just a trade. It seems so much better. And why not an excuse to go drive and meet a fellow homesteader?
It's not that we didn't love having the cows. I mean, I think that's if you have.
Oh, that's why it tore us apart,
no,
trying to figure out if we were going to keep
If you
them or
have
not.
livestock, I'm going to say this. I'm sure everybody can say there's times where you just absolutely despise having it. Doesn't matter whether it's a chicken, sheep, a cow, whatever. But I mean, all in all, there's nothing wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
We were just looking at it from all those factors of, can we actually make this work and do it well?
Well, and the only reason we wanted cows was for dairy.
That was the primary.
But I'm just saying the whole reason for even thinking about getting cows in the first place was for dairy. We sold our dairy goats in order to get cattle that were supposed to be good for dairy. Now, we never got to that point to know whether they were good or not, but before, just realizing that they were too big for us, and our property is not set up, and with our neighbor having, and we've already gone over all this.
It just kind of gets into a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, and it was sort of a thing of, you want to try and make it work, and it was just...
The nice part about the bull next door, if you don't have cows, he's fine.
Yeah.
The sheep and stuff, like, they don't even pay attention to them, but when you have 2 heifers, different story. I'm going to go back here a bit.
And Freehandly, we will have to do a quilting live at some point. That'll be a good winter thing to do. Yeah, to be honest, I do not quilt it all in the summer. I don't have any time. But I would definitely do a sit and quilt thing.
I'm going to go back to Cliffside's comment, and if I missed anybody else, I apologize.
If we missed something, just write it in again, because between using the phone, the chat disappears so quickly, and then we're trying to follow it on the computer,
so we're trying.
Just
but I'm going to go to Cliffside's comment for a minute, because I read your comment today, which was awesome, and it's interesting because where you're at with the quail is something that we've thought a ton about with poultry, because a lot of poultry breeds now, and the quail are one of them, won't brood. Now you can breed for broodiness, but it's a long process if there's not a lot of broodiness known in that breed. So it can happen. But if you can get a silky, you should do well with her. Now, I don't know if she would get along with your quail, would be the one thing. And this is something, like you say, a bit nervous about diversifying animals. This is the problem of, like, how we say doing it well, not so much from what a breed association says or anything like that. It's doing it well to get the products you need from them and keep them healthy and happy, right? Because that is part of it. And that's just where we kind of go back about a little less diversity. But for you, as long as you don't have anything that says from a bylaw perspective that you can't have chickens, if there is anything like that, I would probably say don't go down that. Don't risk it. Yeah, otherwise I would say try it.
She might be really happy by herself, though.
It's hard to say. Yeah,
she'll be by on her own. Because if she doesn't like the other chickens, she might just love... We have Phoebe. Look at Phoebe. Phoebe is completely on her own, and she's the best broody hen we have, and she doesn't like anybody else. Mm-hmm. She just does her own thing, and
you do have to... You are right about some of the pathogens and stuff, but don't let it scare you as much as sometimes you read. Mm-hmm. I'm not giving advice as veterinary advice, but... Mm-hmm. If you had a lot of both, probably a bigger issue. If you've only got a couple of them, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of, yeah.
I'll be intrigued to see your Old Western dealing with the cows blends, and we'll watch for that. I haven't watched your one about the your bull, but I'd be curious too, because that was the deciding factor for us. That was just about 2 weeks ago now. You were working, so it must have been on Wednesday or Thursday after our last live. I came in, and in the morning, we always put the cows and the horse out at night. And when I went to go and get them that morning, the cows were in the neighbor's cornfield. Mm-hmm. They had jumped over the fence and were in the corn. And
fortunately, they were good enough they came back.
They wanted back. They just couldn't figure out how to get back in. They were just up and down the fence. But it was just like, at that point, we were like, yeah, if they're going to jump fences and we've got a bull next door and we're going to get a bull, this is not going to work. That kind of really escalated the decision-making, I think, there.
Like you said, we're making the decision at a point where we haven't invested enough time and effort into it.
We're not losing out because we haven't gotten full force into it. Like, we only started fencing for them and things like that. And it's easy enough
We
to
can make some
change it or
conversions and
make it
whatnot.
work for what we have. Plus, we still have Bucky the horse, so he'll have all those fencing, so it will
But
work.
we will.
Don't ask about turkeys, Chrissy. Turkeys.
To be honest, I used to raise turkeys. Really enjoyed it, but the problem was you couldn't keep them
where you wanted them.
So it kind of
and we don't like doing things in confinement.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that this is another thing that's really a big thing on our minds is the sheep as a prime example, or even our chickens. Yes, you do confine the chickens at times, but generally speaking, they're out.
Oh yeah,
like
we basically every
out.
morning we just go and open all the coops, and the chickens go free range everywhere, and they all go back to their proper houses at night. It's wonderful.
It's just things that they've learned. But because we have a bigger property, we would like to do as much as possible things that we can have a bit more extensively, where they can go out and collect the food, like the sheep going back to the pasture. Oh, I gotta sneeze. And this is the one thing that we haven't made a decision on, but we're on the fences with the rabbits. And that's the biggest reason, is because we can't.
Everything's brought to them. They're confined, fully confined. Mm-hmm. You need to go sneeze?
No, I'm good. I won't sneeze on camera.
But the big decision that has been made is the cows are going / gone. And we did a little poll there where we asked people's opinions on the pigs, the geese, and the rabbits, because we're kind of thinking along the lines of one of them is going to go to keep it all manageable. And so it's interesting to hear people's opinions and thoughts, because it's all great things and sometimes stuff that we haven't thought about. And as we go down the line of wanting, sustainable, we want to sustainably grow them and
as much as possible.
And try and keep it as enjoyable as possible. And the big thing for me is making it as little work as possible. Like, I love the pigs because it's just a case of in the morning, open the door, give them food, make sure their tub is full, they're happy. Nighttime, give them food, they're happy. It's like 5 minutes of your day, unless you want it to be more.
And they are extensive.
Yeah.
You can let them out
same thing with the sheep. It's let's walk down to the pasture. That's all I do for the day. Put your food out at night, and you come back to the pen. So it's not laziness, but as we've expanded the gardens this year, that's something that's really hit. We've never tried to garden as much as we've done this year.
We've never had as big of a garden. We've always gardened
We always gardened, but not had as much of a large garden. And we're also seeing the incredible value we're getting out of the garden. We've always focused so much on the meat product because we don't love how it's an ethical thing, sort of, the quality, the life that those animals have. There's all those factors that make you want to raise your own meat.
Well,
if you can.
There's a long history of a slippery slope there.
Yeah.
You can source ethically raised meat. But
it's one of those things. If you get the opportunity to grow it, you can usually grow it cheaper than you can source it.
True.
Is the
depending
theory.
on what it is,
and you enjoy it.
I'm going to go back to cliffside stuff a bit because I apologize, we're behind again. But we can. Phoebe doesn't really have a setup.
Well, she's got her.
She's pretty much free range, but she's even trained to. She comes like
she roosts on the horse's hay feeder in the barn.
But she used to sleep in the crate, and she used to live in the house. So it was like a complete pet scenario. But we'll definitely keep an eye out for your aviary video that you've got sorted, because that'll be pretty cool to see. I'm just gonna go back up here for keeps jumping ahead. That's good, Blands, that it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Yeah,
because that's our
fear with the neighbor's bowl, because it's just one little strand of electric, tiny, like it's not even 1.5 feet off the ground.
We've watched the neighbor's bull is a big Hereford, and he's really well behaved. But the neighbor 2 properties down, the 2 bulls duet to each other every night.
And the pushing on the fences and stuff. It's just like, I'm just waiting for,
Well, and then we just didn't want to get in the mix of that with another bull.
Yeah.
But I think Eldan's got it. You're trying to simplify your complications. It's just trying to make it. I think maybe it was in the response I gave to your comment, Cliffside, about kind of looking at it as an ecosystem, and you're just trying to figure out, like, for me on the animal side of homesteading, I do think animals are important. Picking whatever animals work for you is obviously going to be the best option. Like, just because we like sheep doesn't mean sheep are for everybody or for every situation, or chickens or what have you. But sometimes I think it's better to have less. You want a bit of diversity, but you don't want a lot of diversity, because if you have a few different species of animals that you can kind of, again, do it well to get the product, keep it going, all that stuff, you're probably better off, which is different from plants, because you can have, but that's how a natural ecosystem works, right? You always, I shouldn't say that. There are ecosystems on the planet that don't have the diverse plant communities, but most areas of the planet have fairly diverse plant communities, right? And then your animals, of course, being the consumers of that, are less numerous generally, and it's kind of trying to build something like that. I think that's part of the sustainable.
Yeah.
I'm not doing a great job of explaining it tonight, but yeah, Chris's Clevercraft is about chickens. They're super, super easy and super simple.
Hey, Bramble Hill, how are you doing? We're behind, so we're working on it. We're trying to get through.
Yep, and drops is 100% right too. But sometimes growing a garden involves growing food for the animals.
Yeah,
exactly, and that's actually something that we've been trying to factor into it. We don't feel we could probably produce.
Aaron, I'm going to write this down.
We don't feel we could probably produce all the food, for example, that we would need to feed the chickens, but we do feel that we could produce a bigger portion than what we are now. And maybe in the future you would get to that point, but that's part of that. To me, sustainability is like you're doing as much as you can, and you're going to still have outside inputs. It's a great dream to not have outside inputs, but
not realistic for us.
That's a hard one, because it's like, even the hay example, you can have all the pasture in the world, but you're still going to have inputs. If you got a tractor, you still got inputs, right? So, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's completely fine. It's just, it's not always possible to not have the inputs.
Oh.
No, I definitely agree, or can understand that about adding something different.
Sorry, you said it skipped ahead because you missed the.
I think I missed a bunch of comments.
Yeah.
I'm way behind. Sorry, we're just kind of going back.
We're trying to catch up. Do you have a worm farm?
We do.
Yes, it's one of those things that it's still considered a livestock, and it's been discussed the last little while as to whether we really need the worm farm, because it is something that potentially gets neglected just because of lack of time.
It's kind of one of those things that takes very little time, and they kind of keep going. But then for us, we're on the fence, because it's not really a lot of inconvenience to have them, but because we compost so much between the animals and the garden waste that we don't bring in the house, and we can't really have an outdoor worm farm. That's the one thing. We have an indoor one. It kind of ends up, it's like you still get an end result out of it, and it's kind of nice to have it in the house, but it's like, do we actually need it? That's debatable at this point in time. We haven't really, it's such a low priority thing. We haven't made any decision there by any means, but
yeah. I was going to Bramble Hills there too before the worm farm, talking that they won't ever be fully sustainable.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is sustainable. What was the definition you said in our video there?
It's just being able to keep something going long term.
Yeah.
And if you add the environmental factor, it's also doing that without sort of, I'm going to say it generically, negative environmental impact, right? So it doesn't mean
that you can't purchase, or there are things that you'll never be able to do yourself. It's like I always pick on the canning. You can't do canning without buying stuff. I can't create canning jar lids. I can't Well, I could make vinegar. I could, but even like the sugar, we're doing the sugar beets, but the sugar in the quantity to do jams and jellies, I'm not growing sugar beets for that. If I had to, could I? Yes, but I'm not going to.
Well, you might over time. But it's
Maybe
also
over
not
time,
something
but
you can do quickly.
there's always things that you can't be fully
It's
on your
trying to.
own.
I think the best way to look at the sustainable, if you're trying to do things yourself, is look at the things that you actually can do yourself, and do them well, and then slowly kind of build from there, right? Because I say this with the chickens, it's like we're not sustainable from a feed perspective, but we're very sustainable from a genetic perspective, which allows us to. I mean, they do it all themselves. They do everything themselves because we've amassed enough to make that selection to keep it going that way. So,
Yeah.
not a great explanation, but
I was going back to one two had asked about if we do fodder. We've done fodder for the bunnies, and it did really, really well. And we actually have been talking about bringing that back.
possibly even for the pigs.
Yeah,
I think
because
would,
the pigs we think would do amazing on fodder. We did the wheat. We just sprouted wheat all winter, and well, actually, we did it almost all year for the rabbits. For a full year, I think we did it, and it was great. It was just one of those you had to have the setup and you had to have the spot to do it, and then we moved, and it just kind of didn't work here the way we had it set up, and we've not gotten back into it. But now with the greenhouse and things like that, we could get a setup that at least worked for 3/4 of the year. So we are talking about it, but we're actually talking about it in terms of fodder for pigs. As well, so that could be kind of interesting.
I'm going to go back to my job to
and the beets. Obviously, we do the fodder beets.
The sugar beets and stuff. I don't necessarily agree that I would say I don't. Let's start over. Going back to Cliffside's comment, I think quail can be sustainable, but it's a whole different set of factors, right? Because, like you say, they're excellent egg producers, and they have relatively low inputs for that. So it's like if you can't have chickens, for example, and you want eggs, there might be the only option. And even though, going down further, I see, like you say, they have downsides, and I think that's absolutely everything. Whether it's vegetables, even the permaculture stuff, even livestock, there's always downsides, and it's not to sound negative, but sometimes it's a good reality check to remember the downsides, right? And then you have to ask yourself, am I okay with the downside? And does the downside still make it work for me? Right? Because I think that's the other side with which you see a lot with animals is where people just get one or two of everything, and then none of it really works well, and they don't get any kind of production, and they don't, right? Because they didn't really think of the downsides. They just thought, oh, goats are great, and cows are great, and pigs are great, and sheep are great, and lambs are great, and donkeys are great, and suddenly they have everything. Right? And maybe you can make it work, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty hard to get a good return if you're actually trying to homestead.
Spreading yourself too thin, basically.
Spreading yourself too thin, and you can't. Yeah.
Mealworms. We've never done the mealworms.
No, that's not something we've ever raised. I have thought about it in passing, but I'm always a bit afraid that they'll escape and get into feed and all that sort of stuff. Because I think in the wintertime you'd have to have them in the house.
Yeah.
The worms, we were thinking of potentially using them as a bit of a protein source, but they don't seem to. We'd have to really ramp it up.
We'd have to upscale it in order to.
And this is the dilemma because we have the outdoor composting areas. It's like
which the chickens love, and right in there.
It's amazing the amount of food they actually get out of it. You have no idea what they're eating, but the amount of insects and things that they're actually picking out of there is. They love it. You open the door and that's the first place they go.
Straight to the compost / manure pile. Honey badgers, so many factors and decisions to be made. It's enough to drive a person absolutely batty. Batty.
The deeper
we go from one day just like we're done. We're not doing it anymore. We're done. This is ridiculous.
Quite that far,
oh, we do get close. And then the next day we're keeping everything. And then the next day, and the worst bit is it's not coming down. Like I almost think a financial reason for having to get rid of things would be simpler than trying to do it's not a preemptive or
it's not a cost benefit analysis, but That's probably the most comparable thing. You're just trying to figure out what can you balance, keep going, get a good return because you want the product, whatever it is, whether it's broccoli or lamb, you still want that because that's why you're doing it. And thanks for coming in. We enjoyed the conversation too. I know we're doing a lot of talking. At some point we will probably Thorhaven mentioned it. It would be nice to do maybe something through StreamYard once we actually get our stuff working again, and have people come up and talk about it, because I think it's like in this live tonight. There's some amazing conversations going on there, and this is what's really fun's the wrong word, but nice about the community on YouTube, because we're not all close physically, but we're all doing similar things in different ways with different constraints and different whatevers. But we're basically all trying to do the same thing. The principal thing is you're growing food, and there's a million and one ways you can
Sonny's
do that.
Place.
But I don't know. It's always good conversation. So thank you for coming in.
I want to ask where we'd gotten our sugar beet seeds. Did we get them from West Coast Seed?
No, we got them from Salt Spring Seeds.
Oh, Salt Spring Seeds. That's who it was. I wanted to make sure we touched on that. Now, they were sold out this year. We luckily bought a lot before they got sold out. And we are planning to try to propagate them ourselves. Some stuff ourselves to keep it going for next year. But definitely, if it's something you're after, people went like mad over it this year because you couldn't get them. So if it's something you're looking for, pick up the seeds as soon as you see them for sale, because they were gone fast. Maybe they just didn't have a lot because
they're not something that a lot of places have. Now other beets will do will do similar things, but apparently not quite the level of sugar.
We also did the red mango beets for the animals, and the sheep loved them, and so did the rabbits. We've not actually fed sugar beets to the.
They would eat it.
They'd eat it, but we've not actually fed the sugar beets because we used them ourselves. But the red mango beets we did grow for them, and they loved them. Sorry, I wanted to make sure we came back to those because they were a thingy.
Yeah, I think. Bramble Hill's got an excellent one. It's just do the best that you can.
Yeah.
Yep. That's basically what it is. I guess this is where it sounds kind of whatever for us, because we're like...
Well, we're the same as what they were, doing all our own meat, and we were doing as much veggies as we could handle, and we just keep upsizing the veggies and realizing that is time consuming, but it's so beneficial to our bottom line.
It's kind of, I always say it this way, because I probably could never become a vegetarian unless I had to for some health reason. But that being said, there's times of the year where
you can eat a lot less meat.
You can eat a lot less meat. So it's this balance of, we want the animals because the animals produce us more than just meat, depending on what it is. Like you're getting manure, you're getting fleece, you're getting eggs, which I know is kind of technically meat too. But and there is an enjoyment factor, to be quite honest. But it's just finding that balance of like how much is enough, and what do you like? How much could you simplify it and still keep the resiliency from the diversity? That's the game. It's a game, a homesteading game. Sorry, we're way behind.
We are. Hey, Caitlin's Family Farm said, sorry, I'm only just getting to you now, so I did not see that. Glad you made it. We already said bye to Blands. We're that far behind. He's already gone, and we're... Hi, Sean in Alaska. Again, did not say hi. We didn't see you come in. This terrible. Working off the phone, we're either going to have to buy a new laptop or figure it out, because it's driving me nuts trying to do this on our phone, or my phone.
You made cherry jam out of choke cherries.
I haven't made them yet. I've just done the juice for the choke cherry jam. I'm going to make it tomorrow, which is good.
Bramble
Hill would have nice cherries though, because out in BC.
Yeah, that's true.
Not choke
cherries. It'd be
cherries.
better than ours.
Yeah,
the choke cherries.
I'd love to have cherries.
Jelly, Oh, we're working on it.
We're working on it.
Definitely Cruci. If it doesn't have seeds in it and it's a shredded straw, that would sounds perfect.
Oh yeah.
Without seeing it, that sounds like exactly like what you want,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty awesome. And thank you for thinking we do so well about putting up videos. I don't know, we try. They're not all super interesting.
It's one of those. I will admit, it is very. Sorry, you're skipping really fast.
No, I'm not too far.
Okay. I don't like when he skips ahead and I haven't read everything because sometimes what he thinks it needs to be talked about is not what I think
It
needs
jumps
to
on
be
its
talked
own
about.
too.
What was I talking about? We talked about cherries. Oh gosh, now I started on a rant.
Moment.
And now I had a moment.
So we didn't actually get the mangles in the ground this year because of our expansion.
Hey, Vortex Valley. I'm assuming because I see somebody.
But
talking
they do quite well, and they get big. Like they are. They are a fodder beet now. The other thing that I'd like to experiment with, because we like beets, apparently if you eat them young, they're still edible by humans. They're still edible when they're big, but I don't think they're red mangoes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they'd be very enjoyable unless you had to, because I think they get kind of fibrous, but the animals like them. So we're going to experiment.
Thanks for popping in, Sonny's Place.
A bit
Good
more.
to see you. Sorry, I wanted to just what Caitlin was talking about there. That was what I was going to say. That's one of the things that we found with the YouTube is we almost you do have to make it a priority. I think to make sure that you do. Now, saying that for us, we're just videoing our lives.
Some of it's not always very interesting.
It's just our lives. So it's not like going out and making you got to set up props and do a movie scene and whatever. So it's not that big of an ordeal. But it still is something that you mentally have to work in there. And we usually always carry a camera because that's the only way to remind ourselves to keep filming.
Well, you never know what, like, the stuff,
and you never know.
You miss because you didn't have it in your hand.
Freehandly, thank you very much for coming in. Glad to see you.
Yes, thank you. I think Eldan has a good point about if you could figure out how to network better. Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. And this is something that, again, this is not going to sound too negative, but this is another thing with the livestock and then the plants too. The plants, it's more from then you're not dependent because you just have it, right? It's like when you're saving your own seeds of varieties that you like, provided it's easy enough to do so, you're buffered because you always have it, right? Livestock's the same thing. It's nice. Like this is what we say with the chickens. We could technically never buy another chicken, provided nothing bad happens. And we could still keep it going. Like that's probably the ultimate in sustainable from a livestock perspective. That being said, you can't do that with everything. So that's the other balance of for certain animals, you're always going to, like, I'm going to say cows. If you don't have a lot of land, you're always going to be dependent because
someone's got to provide you with the bull.
So you need to be into that network of whatever breed or whatever it is that you choose, right? Because you can't keep them all yourself. You can't likely keep them all yourself.
Thanks for coming in.
Economically, on a small scale.
Yeah.
On a small scale, on a homesteading scale.
That's something that we struggle with is just how much, because that is something that is important to us, is being able to keep things going. And we're not, I'm not going to say like, we're not, I don't know how to word it exactly because we are preppers, but we're not preppers in that sense of prepping for a crisis. We're just preppers because we don't want to have dependency if we can help it.
Well, and the one thing, because I've said this for years, way back to when I started, was before I even started gardening myself, it's like, I'm going to figure out how to save seeds. I'm going to keep enough poultry to keep it going so that I don't always have to buy birds all the time. Have I been successful with every endeavor? No. Have I decided not to do some things? Yes. But at the same time, when you look back at what's just happened in the last couple of years and shortages and this, that, and whatever, it's like it kind of was the fruition of a prophecy that I would have never wanted to have happen, but it sort of halfway did, where it's like you actually couldn't get it. You couldn't get broilers. You couldn't get egg layers. You couldn't get seeds. You couldn't get the simple things, right, that people kind of took for granted that you could always get it. And it's like, then if you were doing it, it was like, hey, you're buffered from it. which I guess is the epitome of the prepping side of
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah, where that doesn't affect you. If it's not available, it doesn't matter. And I think that's the thing, is choosing those few things that you can do well enough to do that, and deciding what things are not worth going
And
down
that goes back
what's
to the discussion we did about the put and take, right? Because there's nothing wrong with put and take either. So if there's, I guess from a homesteading perspective, my advice would be exactly what you said. If you're starting, pick a few things that you think you can do well, maybe to that point that you actually are self-reliant, i.e., saving tomato seeds, and that's a super simple one, or having a big enough chicken flock of a breed that you're buffered from outside goings on, or rabbits are another one that you can actually do it. Pick a few of those things, and then you can add some put and take things to it in a way. It's kind of the reverse way that a lot of people do it, but it's not a bad
well,
way
and
to look at it.
it's
Not
it's
explaining
fine.
that super well.
It's fine to plunge into do an experiment, but making a decision on something keeps it easier than trying to keep everything all afloat.
Well, it's exactly like what we did with the cows. We
Yeah.
wanted the cows for the dairy. We've experimented with the cows, made the decision that it's not going to be as beneficial for us in the long term as the sheep for a bunch of factors. And there's the end of the experiment, basically.
Yeah. And 1-2's pointing out there about the craving to learn things like the gardening, chicken, spinning, and it's all just it.
You can keep going and learn as much
well,
as you want, because
and-
it's just a never-ending.
But I often say, like, the things that you're mentioning there are the old-fashioned things. That's the stuff that I always have had a craving to learn and have kind of pushed myself to learn them. You have as well in some aspects, but it's like quilting, hand quilting, and sewing, and spinning, and weaving, and making textile stuff out of your own products, and
then there's
growing
another,
your own food. It's all old world type skills that
and
people have lost.
But there's another layer to that learning too, right? Because going back to sort of, I'm going to say, the more conventional farming is very reliant on machinery, or like you say, making quilting is very reliant on machinery. But that's okay to a point too, because
Little House on the Prairie was the best.
Well, homesteaders of the past would have still used technology, but then it's kind of like learning where the best benefits are to the technology, right? This is kind of like us with the tractor. Investing in a brand new tractor for the amount of work that we really need for it is probably not worth it for us at this point in time.
Yeah, yeah.
But that doesn't mean that another tool that's a bit more modern couldn't do an older type job better, a little easier for us. It's that's another balance, but
I think we've skipped ahead, but
I haven't been touching it over here.
No, but it's going on its own. I think it's just, and hello, the Gibblers. It says, can you say the Gibblers for me and I'll subscribe? Oh, that went too far. There's where we were just talking about right there. Because this was one that you're prepping for self-sustainability, making sure you only have to be proactive, never reactive. And that is exactly it.
And realizing that you can't. It's a really, really hard to reach goal to be self-sufficient.
Yes.
So it's okay to take advantage of, not take advantage, but it's okay to be reliant. But it's nice to reduce your reliancy. So if there's things that you can do to reduce your reliancy, and you have to be reliant for a few other things, that is okay. I think that's one part people forget about, even though everybody usually does that anyways.
And then Caitlin's Family Farm, the next one there with the if you think of it, we got away from taking care of ourselves. Our great parents had made sure to do things that they had their food for the winter, and that's exactly it. And they had the ability to make their socks. They had, Good
night, honey badgers.
Yes,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. But anyway, it's just, ever since I think I started quilting when I was 9 and knitting, and it's been an ongoing thing for learning those old world crafts and skills, and I love it. And I think now it's coming into play as more and more people are realizing the importance of that. And I think it's a really good thing, and a really good thing for everybody who does know it to get out there and teach people that want to learn it, because there's so many different ways to do something, and people need to make up their own minds. And sometimes seeing different ways and showing different ways is the way to help everyone get to that point where the world is able to sustain itself.
That's what we do is not a one-size-fits-all thing by any means.
No.
I like Wicked Awesome Gardener's comment about steady growth is slow growth, better than a huge breakout and then a burnout.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one thing, because we have said that in some departments we are a little bit overwhelmed, which is part of the not overwhelmed quite in that burnout sort of scenario, because this is the problem with the YouTube stuff. Like, yes, we moved and there's been a whole lot of other stuff with that, but this isn't our first couple of years of doing this.
It's not our first rodeo.
And maybe that's where it sort of maybe comes off seeming like it's like getting rid of the cows. That seems like a quick decision.
Oh, it was an agonizing decision.
It is in some ways. There was a ton of thought and discussion went into that to not do the big cows anymore. And it's also based off of previous experiences where you just kind of, you're getting the spidey senses that it's like
tingling.
Maybe we need to rethink this because
well, and you start to, as you do this longer and longer, you realize quite quickly when maybe you don't realize quite quickly when you bit off more than you can chew, but you learn really quick when you get there that you need to get fixed up and out of there because you're in over your head. You need to get out quickly. And that was where we were. So,
or make a big decision. Like we said, we could have done cows and got rid of everything else.
But we couldn't do it all.
Yeah. It's kind of.
And Caitlin's family home farmstead there again with the grandparents were not considered preppers. Exactly. They were homesteaders, pioneers.
It was just normal.
It was normal life. They weren't even considered farmers because farmers was like, I think that's where you've gone down that line. Like you had homesteaders and then farmers was something so different because it was for money and income and whatnot. And
there is
I know it's a slippery slope going down that discussion.
There is a part too that I'm going to say it this way. A lot of the avenues for extra revenue that were available to homesteading or subsistence people who were raising plants and animals aren't actually available anymore. And I think that's a big, because we talk about this, about keeping numbers in check, right? For example, the pigs. Kuni pigs don't get as big as a normal pig. So we would consume more than what you would of a normal pig. Just normal, like not exorbitant, but you would eat more of them.
No, you would need to have 3 of them to equal
we
one
often go down, but we often go down the conversation with a lot of things where it's like you need to make sure you have that diversity to keep it going, the genetic diversity, for lack of a better way to put it, but a low enough number of animals that you're not going to be overwhelmed. And although our ancestors would have still kind of looked at it that way, they would have had ways to more readily get rid of the surplus, hence the extra income. And those are not, I'm just going to leave it at a very vague, but those are not as readily available as they once were unless you can scale it up. And that's the dilemma, right? Because that's also part of the sustainable. You can't really bank on having a bumper year of pigs and then getting rid of like 30 piglets. It sounds like a silly statement, but it's kind of true. Could go into that far more, but
too. I'm going back to your comment about the quilt that you've been working on for 30 years, and the foot pedal sewing machine, and that's one of those areas where I would definitely say technology has been a huge, wonderful advancement. And even if I have to run my sewing machine on a solar panel, I will keep my electric sewing machine.
But at the same time, it is.
But it's cool good to have the skills and have the ability to still sew
equipment and equipment, because
that's one thing we've kind of slowly been watching over time and trying to pick up hand tools, things like that. That if you needed them, you could use them. As you know, as we said, the tractor and every other tool machine that we have here, we are not mechanically inclined, so the less that can go wrong, the better.
I do agree. Finding things that aren't canning or freezing is definitely a good idea. There's, which it's hard too, but it's kind of like a level scale, right?
Squash.
Okay, you don't have to do anything.
No, I just put it downstairs, and it's still good the next year.
You have to have the right temperature.
Yeah, the right temperature. But yeah, Vortex Valley is with us in the learning stuff. That's awesome. And then you skipped. It's because you don't use the scrolly little circle thing. You do this other thing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Very
crocheting and knitting's becoming much more
trendy.
Popular.
It's a trendy thing right now, and that's why I said we've actually been talking about with the sheep, trying to look into getting the fleece actually processed off-site, because people are into the knitting and crocheting and stuff now. So if I can get to where I'm just able to sell it already spun, I still have the skill and I still want to do mine myself, but at 26 sheep now, sheared twice a year, I cannot use 52 fleeces.
You can, but they'd have to be in different ways. But at the same time,
I'd have to clean and
but that would be an example of a potential area that is still available, as long as you're willing to do the value-added piece, which is get it, because we don't have that equipment to do it at
we'd
that
have
scale,
to send it out to be done.
That you can make extra income, but this is where it goes back to your profit margins. If you were doing it just for fleece, are not good.
No.
Everybody would tell you there's no money in
there's no money in fleece.
100% true. But if that's just the extra, that's essentially
not why you have
this
them.
way. That's the waste product because you have to do it. That's not a bad problem to have.
Yeah. Old-fashioned crowd was interested in taking care of themselves, exactly, and their families.
Yeah, and that's kind of this. It's not that we're completely recalibrating by any means, but it's just we're fine-tuning the calibration.
Yeah, I would say that and most homesteaders probably will find this. For the first 10 years, you're going in, not blind, but you're going in with dreams and aspirations and trying things, and stuff doesn't work and stuff works great, but then something better comes up or available that you didn't know you were ever going to get the opportunity to do, and so on and so forth, and it bumps around. But I think now Chris and I are finally getting to that point where we're like, okay, we've tried just about everything. We know what we like and what we didn't like, and now it's the fine-tuning of getting it really set to then live out the life of our dreams. How's that for drama? That's our high hopes anyways. It's going to get simple after we make decisions and just stay on track. Please tell me, anybody, that is what's going to happen. Life will get simple and we'll stay on track, and it's going to be perfect. Absolutely perfect. I know it. I'm Mrs. Positivity. He's Mr. Negativity. Not all.
Negative.
No, you're not negative, really. Only occasionally.
I do agree with the side.
Fermentation. I got some pickles going downstairs. Like the kind, I love those kind you get at the restaurant, the big long spears that are fermented. And I got to do my turnips, and I really need salsa, so my tomatoes had better start soon, because I do a really nice wild tomato fermented salsa, which, if you haven't tried it and you have some tomatoes, I will send you the recipe because it's amazing.
There's some. Well, it's skipping ahead a bit, but there's definitely fleece sales in our area. I would say are not fantastic, but that's an avenue we just haven't really pursued. But yes, I think that was look at Awesome Gardener put about the using it as a byproduct. Yeah. Essentially, that's what the fleece becomes. Although it's a good byproduct. And I'm going to go back.
Eldan's insulation. That's what we've been doing.
We've been doing that too.
All of our outbuildings for the pigs.
Because out of a given fleece, you often get parts that aren't great, right? So it's waste, but if you can turn it into something else, then why not? Because you have it. Yeah. You've done the work.
Well, and I've also been really only hanging on to the lamb fleeces at this point, and anything else we've been using, because we need insulation for the buildings anyways. So it was a valuable product, but at the same time, I wasn't having time to do it. So I've only kept the lamb fleeces, which are super nice. And we've been, most of the, especially the blacks and the grays, most of them have become...
Well, some of them have not been in great shape.
No,
either,
exactly. So, but eventually we would like to make a little bit of income off of the byproduct, just to help support them. It's not to become rich and famous or anything. It's just one of those...
Well, it's exactly like the chickens, right? If you're selling
eggs,
breeding trios or eggs, you're not making money doing it, but you are offsetting.
It's adding to what's coming in from the farm to help pay some
You're
bills.
offsetting any costs, basically.
Yeah.
It's which is a very different way to look at it than, because essentially that you are losing money in pure sense of the word, but you're still getting value out of the stuff you're getting from the chickens or the sheep. So you're not really losing money, and that's why we're saying it is saving money, because you are looking for, like, I'm going to say it. We even look at it with having the cats. The cats are a complete luxury item that's pretty much useless. Pretty much, they do.
Oh, they bring so much pleasure and enjoyment.
They do catch rodents, but at the same time, you still have to feed them. And using byproducts, it's like when we butcher rabbits and chickens and sheep and stuff. There's a lot of stuff that, yes, we could eat it. Some of it we might not want to, but you're basically turning that into another product that you have an outlet for.
And I like what Drops is saying here. That's something that we've definitely looked into between the Etsy store and things. I'm veering more towards getting off the Etsy store. I know, Drops, we've talked about this, and you've given us some names of some sites and things to try selling on, which we have wrote down, and we do intend to come this winter look into a bit more and try and branch out. We're even thinking maybe do our own website instead of going through other sites to sell stuff. But anyways,
that's a whole bunch of more technical
that's later
stuff.
after when hopefully quiet time comes and we can think about that. But definitely we're looking at the quilting. For me, I enjoy it. I love it. I still sell it, but it's not sustainable because I buy all my product, and pretty much all fabric comes from China. There's some that's manufactured in the States or over in Europe, but most of it is China. And in the long run, if there was a crisis, I would not continue quilting. Now, lucky for us, I have enough of a stash that I could probably make quilts for the entire neighborhood for 50 years. But the thing for us with the fleece is taking that from a product from the sheep all the way to the end does give you a little niche market, but it also is something that costs nothing because it's the byproduct. So I can create great mittens or things like that, or socks or slippers, and you're selling that. And
I'm going to interject for a moment here, because I'm going to say something that you've said, because there's been some really good comments about like the value-added products and the fleece in particular, because the Icelandic has a really nice wool quality to it. But there was a comment about you should try weaving and sort of those value-added stuff, and that's another part, because we've mentioned time, but time is still a factor, right? So if you have too many endeavors that compete with each other, that's, even if they may give you a ton of a return, that can still be extremely problematic unless they're only competing for a short period of time. Because this is something we've talked about with milking the sheep. Sheep milking the Icelandics is about a 2-month operation. It's just their lactation curve is pretty short, and you still want the lambs, so we'd still be doing lamb shares. With the ewe. So your 2 months of kind of intensive milking, but you can freeze it, etc. And that frees up, rather than having to milk. This is why we don't have the Jersey anymore. Instead of having to milk twice a day, every day, because even the calf share wouldn't take that, you free up a lot of time. Now, are you getting as much milk product? No, but then it's also that question of, do you need that much milk product? / would you really be able to make all of those various milk products in the time that you still have after doing the milking and everything else? So that was another factor.
Because this thing is just a rolling. It's rolling. We're missing a whole bunch here. I also want to say to Cliffside, this will be a terrible question because we've watched a lot of your videos. We know your story, but do you actually have some fermentation videos? Because I'm new to it. I just started it last year. She's talking about all the things she's got fermenting. And so I'm nervous and yet loving it. So I've started.
Everything you have tried has
been fantastic.
Really
Even I did hot peppers and they kind of went weird. So I got scared. So I took them and I just pureed them down and canned them. But boy, did they taste amazing. I didn't even can them. I just pureed them and we ate them quick.
But Drops had the comment too about the winter squash. It's things like potatoes, winter squash. I don't know, a lot of the root vegetables and stuff you can store. Yes. Even if you don't have the root cellar, you can still figure out, as long as you have a basement, you can usually figure out how to do it. I think you went way back up.
That's where we were, just with the Just Go All In network with Elle, which that's something that we need to get. I need to get a little bit better at, but then I always fall into that thing of what Chris was saying about time. it just seems there's never enough time in the day to get to doing these things. Like I love knitting and spinning and doing all that. So we're trying to kind of find that balance of how can we make time to still do the things that we really enjoy that could still bring real benefit to the homestead. Yet they're a super enjoyable hobby. And don't get me wrong, I love animals and gardening too, but I still want to do the other.
Take you up on that offer drops, because that's something like I have no web information. He was offering to potentially put something together. That would be kind of cool, because that's something we've never done or figured out. But this is going back to the skill set, right? We've focused on skill sets that we're fairly comfortable in, and maybe not gone beyond that.
She is fermenting her sunchokes. I don't know if you saw Chris's video. His sunchokes went absolutely crazy this year.
Which is a good problem to have.
So I would definitely like to know about that. Sorry, we're way behind. You're probably answering or something, and I'm...
But I was going to say, because you actually do weave.
Yep.
It's just, again, it's a time
I have a loom. I've not shown it yet because it's had the same scarf on it for 3 years now. It is our fleece. I've been working on it partially, but it's just time has, it's quite the process to get to it. But I would love to get back into all that stuff again.
And yeah, we've done felting.
Yes.
We've made dryer balls and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not too bad, actually.
We made we made the dryer balls, and what else did we do with felting? Oh, I made we made those stuffies.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We've thought about doing more of that stuff.
Well, we talked about doing Christmas
I
decorations.
think part of it though, like it's good winter projects, and even though we moved a year and a half ago, was it a year and a half ago? You still, that first winter here, we just weren't organized as much as we would have liked to have been, which is kind of the slow and steady. It'll come.
I've made 2 pairs of socks so far, Eldan, and neither of them were fantabulous, but
good.
They work really well, but they certainly weren't selling quality, but I'm trying to master it because our Icelandic fleece makes amazing socks.
It wears really
and
well.
Nice, or slippers or that sort of thing. So I'm working on that to get back into the groove of it.
As a side note, from what little we've done, we found that the gray fleeces actually wear quite well for socks.
Yeah.
They feel coarser when you're working with them than some of the lamb fleeces, but they're still not itchy and scratchy like you would expect wool to be. So they work pretty well for the socks.
Drop says he's got a few fermentation videos too, so I'm going to have
We'll
to check out those because as things are coming in the garden, like I say, I've done the salsa, pickles, we did the turnips, the hot peppers.
You've done a couple things.
The sauerkraut.
Yeah, that actually worked really well.
Yeah, that worked out really well.
Yeah. Everything you've done, there hasn't been anything you've tried that's been bad.
My Aussie gardening kitchen. Sorry, we're only just getting to your comment now, so hopefully we're not too far behind. Hope you're having a good, I guess it's midday there compared to...
Yeah, we always guess.
She's gonna start doing some for in the winter. I think that would be a great idea. I'm doing a few as I go, like a couple different video type things with the cooking stuff, but I haven't done a lot of them. I've got a few requests for a few things that I make all the time with the pressure canner and stuff like that. So I'm going to try and get those out. But felted
We'll have to check the sunchoke one out then.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be looking for ways to use them. Should look up Nana's Cooking Craft Corner YouTube channel. Okay. We're going to rate that in the book drops because we will definitely check that out. Well, no problem at all. Thank you for coming in, Caitlin's Family Farm.
Yeah. Good to see you. Hope you have a great night.
Hope everybody has a great night.
I know.
And rest of the week.
Yes. We do tend to blabber on.
Well, we didn't really have a topic, but I guess it just kind of evolved over time.
Especially when we skip a week, it's nice to really catch up with everybody and see how people are doing. So it works out quite well.
That's cool that they turned out so well, the sunchokes. I'm looking forward to them because we tried to get a patch going at our old place and it just never, I don't know if it just wasn't happy. So that's why we kind of babied them a little bit, and I think it's worked. I have a feeling they're going to multiply
Well, this is the
relatively
thing, and
quickly.
I've got that thing of I don't know exactly what to do with them. So
Well, nice part
fermenting
is
them
you
would be
don't
kind of neat.
have to dig them all up. and
No,
eat them,
no, I wouldn't.
but-
I wouldn't dig them all, but yeah. Best eating sunchokes yet. I think that's going to be what we're going to try and do with them then this year because I'm loving the fermented.
I'm sure there'll be a few that we can try. I know there's
Yeah.
other things you can do with them, but that'll be an interesting thing for us. What on earth is wrong with the last place? I don't know if it's just where we put them. We put them kind of,
Basically, it was like just a sheet of rock.
well, the property was, yeah.
Yeah.
But they still should have grown, but they just never amounted to anything. But nothing really did in that area.
No,
It
we
was
never
always
had
very
very good
sparse cover.
gardens.
We put them there because it was out of the way.
The only gardens that did well were the raised beds.
Yeah.
Really,
that's
the
true.
soil was one part was rock, one part was clay, one part
They grew, don't get me wrong, but they just never amounted to much. It was kind of like they're there.
I have a feeling that the ones we planted here close side will be a menace.
That's okay.
Because they grew in so like considering Chris just planted them this spring, they're like you can't even. They're so dense and so tall, and there's so much of it already. I think we're going to be.
But going back to the livestock thing, if we do keep
could
it to
do
pigs,
animal fodder, yes.
you could scale that up to have a monster patch, and it's supposed to be an excellent pig food because
That's good thinking. Putting it between concrete. Maybe that's what we should do, so that it can only fill that area. We kind of put like boards around it, but I don't think it's going to do the trick.
Well, we will probably mow on the one side of it, and if it wants to spread a bit, it can spread a bit there.
Green plums and green walnuts. Huh. Never heard doing that. That's interesting. Sunchokes would be great with potatoes.
Oh, hog nut. That's is it called hog peanut or ground nut? I think is the other name for it. I've thought about that because that's native here too, and I have to find some to try to get a patch going because I don't think we have any on the property.
No,
But
I never.
all sorts of things like that are worthwhile if they're simple. That's where I do agree with you, Cliffside, about the perennial stuff. As long as you can kind of put it in and somewhat forget it, outside of maybe a little bit of tending first few years and then your harvest, those are excellent things to have some variety because they're not super time consuming.
Well, that's the thing we're trying to kind of focus on. Like you say, a little bit less time consuming for big portions of what we do to free up time for those other things. So I think that's part of it. But we dropped a couple bombs, got rid of the tractor, got rid of the cat. Well, are getting rid of the cows. And
It's good to know about the sunchokes needing the frost. I think I did know that. But interestingly, we had, I'm going to say, quite a few potatoes overwinter in our gardens, both in raised beds by accident.
and in the ground garden.
And in the ground, because we had quite a few of them pop up.
We did, because we grew all our potatoes in those black totes last year. And we thought we'd gotten all the potatoes out, and we used the soil that they were growing in as
In the blueberry bed.
the bedding.
Soil in the blueberry
Soil in our blueberry bed. And this year, the potatoes just grew happily in there.
Yeah, we had quite a few of them.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
had
they
some-
didn't produce a massive.
But yeah,
harvest,
they definitely
but
overwintered just fine, and we have a bunch that overwintered in the
in the ground in the garden.
the actual tilled garden. Yeah,
Which
so,
was kind of surprising, actually. But
Yeah.
I have a feeling we don't know. I think they were the what's the big one you've got?
the russets.
The russets. I think they were russet potatoes, based on where they were. But-
Yeah.
So we'll see if they amount to much
Right.
because we planted.
We're gonna have so many potatoes this year.
That's not a bad thing.
I know.
That's something you can store.
Yeah, and you can store with relatively little work,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice.
Exactly. Never tried potatoes in a grow bag, indoors or outdoors.
No.
It'd be interesting to try it.
I'm so scared to start stuff outside and move it in because of bugs and stuff.
Well, I think it just depends what it is. Because Drops had a comment way back at the beginning about his tomatoes, and he was saying about which it makes sense. The aphids aren't such a big a big deal, but they are for other things.
Other
like
things,
peppers
yeah. Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah, it's amazing accidental potatoes, how well they actually, surprising how well they actually come back. They're, because I don't think potatoes are supposed to be quite that cold hardy.
Besides, all hers this year are accidental. Our dilemma is tomatoes. There's tomatoes, just voluntary tomatoes growing everywhere. We just keep pulling tomatoes.
Well, yeah, tomatoes are weeds.
Yeah.
That's the kind of vegetables. That's why I always say that's the kind of annual vegetables that are easy, kind of, because they want to grow.
Yeah, exactly.
Things that want to grow well for you are usually your best things to go with, whether it's animals or plants.
Oh, Wicked Awesome Garden of Kale is terrible for the aphids and bugs.
Indoors, anyways. Outside, not as bad.
Well, like she said, she brought it in and it was covered. Like she brought them in.
We had some. We thought it was going to perish. Now that being said, it's hardy because it
didn't. And once we put it
die.
outside, and
It's spraying back pretty quick.
Yeah.
But actually, that's one of the ones that went to seed, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. We tricked it into thinking it had gone through
a winter, even though it hadn't. Self-for cedars are her only crops. I always like when you buy annual flowers and you just leave them and the next year you get some more and you're just like, yay! That's what I like, when you just like, oh, I planted those last year. They weren't supposed to grow again, and then they're there.
They took off.
Exactly. Those are the kind I like. Because usually I buy some nice perennial and spend money on it and it never works. It doesn't. Look at how many delphiniums I've bought. And
we actually, before we moved, we did chamomile in containers. And it actually grew quite well.
Really well.
And then we moved here and it didn't do so well. So we're going to have to do chamomile in some of our raised beds because I think it will...
it's got to be just something with the way the light is here or something. I don't know.
Or dry, because we didn't actually plant any this year.
No, the one year when it probably would have done amazing because it was wet.
Yeah. But last year was dry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Technically, Crucy, I think they could. You might have to protect them a bit. I don't know. Like, this is the thing with the volunteers. Mulch. Yeah, it was quite a bit of mulch.
Yeah.
I think actually Quebec Homestead has a video on that because she did do that, didn't she? And she's colder than us.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she
has a video that she did.
It wouldn't be that
garden.
old.
No, it's from last year because I think it was an experiment to see this year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
she did a follow up, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right. I think Quebec Homestead did one because she experimented with leaving her potatoes and mulching them.
But she did mulch them really heavy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like we say, ours came up. Now, the ones that came up in the ground, we had grown...
We didn't do anything.
Well, no, but we did because we had grown the russet potatoes, then we harvested the russet potatoes and we put the garlic in its place. So the garlic got mulched.
Oh, you're talking about those? I'm talking about the ones over by the rabbits.
Oh, those ones I have no idea.
They're something...
I don't even know why they're there. But...
Well, the only thing I can think of is when the flowers went to seed.
Oh, maybe.
They dropped seed there.
That's possible.
Because they were in buckets. How else would the potatoes have got there? Sorry.
Yeah.
We're having a
trying to figure out
internal
what
conversation. Yeah. I was thinking about the other batch of potatoes that grew
but the russets, they would have been protected.
Yeah, the russets were hidden under the mulch of the garlic.
So technically, yes, it should work. What I don't know is how much loss you might get because I don't know if they're all going to survive, which is the only advantage to bringing them in, right?
It's an experiment.
Yeah. It's definitely an experiment that should work. It's just be curious to know how many and if there's much difference, if they grow better because they get that longer season.
Well, I would say it would be one of those things. If you ended up that you did grow enough to have extras, I would give it a try. You'll know pretty quick if they grew or not because they'll come up.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, you'll know pretty quick.
We knew, like those ones that were in the blueberry bed came up right away. They were up before we even planted our other ones.
Yeah, they weren't up first thing in the spring though.
No. But I'm just saying
they were up by June, beginning of June. So they did stay kind of dormant for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know. We'd be pushing it without the mulch, I think. But like you say, the seed might be different.
Well, and like Cliffside says, you got a risk of critters too.
Yeah, that's true. Something
mucking around with
eating
them.
them.
Yeah.
I would imagine, Chrissy, that it's probably similar to the other stuff. It's probably if you get cold and it stays cold, you're probably better than if it's freeze thaw, freeze thaw, freeze thaw, because it just seems to be that freeze thaw
Kills it.
kills and rots a lot of stuff. Being said, it didn't kill some of our potatoes, so
Yeah.
um,
It just depends. Thanks for coming in, Wicked Awesome Gardener. We're probably going to be leaving
we're
here
gonna do
soon
the
too.
same.
Tomorrow
It's,
comes quick.
Yep. Midway through the week.
It'll be nice when it gets to winter and the days are shorter and we can start earlier. That's one of the things that's nice. Because we used in the wintertime we did 8:00 and it was nice. But
well, yeah, just a little earlier.
yeah, like Chris I said, consistent cold
Mm-hmm.
is way better than, and it doesn't seem like that's going to be the norm anymore.
Well, that's a whole nother topic of things that used to do really well don't, and you can push the envelope with some things because of changes, and it's really hard on other things. It's like I'm always amazed at even some of the native plants. Like I remember years ago, like there was always questions whether it's daylight length or temperature or what it is that triggers plants to break dormancy. Like I'm thinking like trees and stuff. And the more I watch it now, it's like I think it's all of the above, but it depends. What kind of plant is it? And some of them are triggered by daylight, and some of them are triggered by temperature, and some of them seem to be able to go through pretty much anything and still survive. They can take the freeze thaw, whatever, but a lot of the food items don't seem to take it very well.
No. They're having some trouble, but that's okay. Do we have all our garlic out? Yes.
We do. And we actually have to go back.
Hanging in our barn in the loft, and it smells amazing. Although it's drying very nicely.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty much dried to the point.
We're a week and a half ago we pulled it all?
Yeah, because you were saying maybe this weekend, pending how the weekend goes,
can
cut the stalks off, cut the roots off, and then kind of finish the curing. Because we haven't. I'm curious to see how much we actually produced.
I'm curious on the weight on it. Yeah, that's it's been interesting because with the participation in the Shed Wars stuff, we've been tracking what we've grown this year so far. What did you say we were at?
We're 300 and almost 350 pounds.
350 pounds that we've harvested since March.
End of March.
So that's kind of really like it's been such an interesting thing tracking it and keeping like that's.
Of course, it's not just pounds, but it's still impressive.
No, but that's I think very interesting to. It's something we've never done. You never see what you actually grow and consume and whatnot. So it's been very interesting, and the kids have gotten into the groove of like, you can't eat anything out of the garden. You got to take it in and weigh it first.
Yeah, but it is neat to get in that habit because then you're like. It's amazing how some things add up so much.
Exactly. Do we rack, dry, or plate and hang? I think we're going to just rack them dry. We're going to cut the tips off, and we have the wire racks that we use for the rabbits, and you can just slip the
neck in.
The neck in, and they'll just sit upside down on these racks.
We'll still probably keep them in the barn because
you can hang them. You can hang the rack from the ceiling or whatever.
Put it on some hay bales. Nothing's going to hurt it.
And so I think we're going to try that. I have kind of looked into a few YouTube videos on the braiding, but I didn't get that ambitious this year, and I don't think I will because I think you have to do it before the stuff gets all dry.
I think so. We got it out, and then it was kind of risk of rain, so we kind of bundled it up into bundles of 10 or something like that, and got it hung up in the barn where it's out of the elements, but
food stuff, Elden, not just the garlic. We haven't weighed the garlic yet. That's just how much we've harvested in food since March.
The garlic will be interesting though. So I bet you it'll be quite a bit. But we didn't record anything in July either, so we're not 100% sure. There was a bunch of reasons for that.
We recorded July.
For Shed Wars? No, we didn't.
Oh, we didn't record any videos. She's talking about keeping track of her food weights.
Oh. Well, we kept track of the weights, but we didn't do a video in July, which we're supposed to do. But won't get into why, but some stuff happened at the beginning. But we'll see. I still like the. I think we both do. Still really like the
The
keeping
concept
track.
and
Yeah.
the keeping track of it. Yeah.
Not so much for competition, but more for hey, this is kind of interesting.
So Elle's still got half theirs in the ground. Ours just, and maybe it's just the variety. Were you music as well? Did you have music garlic as well? Ours just, it died back really fast. About 3 weeks ago, it really just like we were watching it, and then the what do you call it? Are they leaves? I guess so. They just all started to go brown and die back. So we were like, well, they say 40 to 60% to pull it. So we said, well, we're going to pull it.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have already been using some of it.
Yeah,
so.
used a couple.
Well, because I'm doing canning and it doesn't make sense to buy garlic, so I've been using it. And it just tastes amazing and smells so good.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking of doing after similar as we've done a little bit of a cure to dry the whatever was left green, and then we're gonna clip them and try it anyways.
I don't like your video showing that they remove the stems totally and dry on stacking racks. Well, we were thinking we're gonna just leave. It's about like 4 or 5 inches. That's what most of the ones we got came.
That's what they came as. Yeah.
Yeah, they were about like 4 to 5 inches, and I don't know. I kind of like that method, and then it came in a box. Like after it dried, they piled it into a box, and I think that worked really, really well. So we're gonna try that first. I also like the box because then I could just store it somewhere. Like we stored it in a linen closet all winter. Where
it worked really well actually.
Yeah.
That's a lot of elephant garlic. That's going to be awesome when you get them planted.
Oh, we should have told Honey Badgers is gone already, but we should have mentioned that our elephant garlic did come up finally.
Yeah. I haven't gone back to look at it since I weeded around it, but
we're hoping that the elephant garlic that Honey Badgers gave us will develop enough to at least replant the bulbs. I don't think we'll be able to do cloves, but we're probably going to order some as well, Crucy, to try and get it in the fall, because we're noticing I don't think it's got enough time planting it this spring.
No, but it was supposed to only get to it's like one single bulb, and then you can plant it again to get yourself back on track. That's why we did it when we did.
Well, it wouldn't have kept either. It had to go in the ground. It wouldn't have kept. So
that's all right. We've done the same thing with the minced garlic jars. We've done that many times in the past, but I don't know. It's nice having so much of it.
Oh yeah.
It's like one of those things that when we actually took the plunge and just did it, it was like, this is kind of worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you start using it, and I forget to use up the stuff in the fridge that I bought, the minced garlic and that. I went and used it today because I'm like, I need to get it used.
Yeah, but, so it'll go bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think you could... Sugar beets, well, to be honest with you, we ended up with the sugar beets this year. We planted one round, I say early, but it was end of May, right?
Yeah.
We planted it in the ground end of May. We had some inconsistency with it sprouting because May was a dry month, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. May was dry. So we planted some in seed trays, kind of like you would Swiss chard or whatever. And so we actually just planted that out. And it's starting to grow decently. I'm curious to see how it does. I think you could still probably plant some now. I just don't know how big of a beet you get, because when did we...
Yeah, they do need, well...
Quite a bit of time.
I want to say they're 100 and... Aren't they 3 and a bit months to decent size?
Yeah, but they're also cold hardy, right? Like we didn't.
Oh yeah, but
until...
we didn't harvest them but they stop growing once it gets cold. You can leave them in the ground, but they don't really keep growing.
They grew till about mid-October.
Yeah.
And then they.
But that's what I'm saying. Quit. Don't forget we're August.
Yeah, that's true.
It's pushing it to get. Well, but then he's BC, so what zone are you?
I think it depends where you are. It's that same thing. Like for us, I almost guarantee if we left them outside, you'd have some survive, but you would have a bunch of them for us, we would probably have a bunch of rot.
They're similar to the they'd be similar to your carrots or anything else. You can leave them in the ground and harvest them frozen.
So they're seven.
Oh yeah, so you've got quite longer seasons. So
you
might probably
be okay. You might be okay to still plant.
For us, we have pretty heavy frosts come October.
I still think it's not the cold. It's that
wet cold.
Warm up, cool down, and wet. It seems to, because it did that to our Swiss chard. What else was it? The Swiss chard, the kale. There was something else. I don't remember what it was. There's something else. Anyways, there was a couple things that should be cold hardy for us, but they just didn't. They all went to mush.
Yeah.
But that being said, you might be able to cover it and protect it from keep it drier too, right? Like we covered our cabbages and stuff.
If you were going to the other thing too, and we've said because we want to do this with our kale this year, you could row cover it with some type of vapor barrier, or you could go to the point of buying proper row covers, and you would be able to harvest it all winter. The sugar beets you would be able to harvest all winter if you could just keep them dry. For sure. You could just leave them in the ground and just pull as you needed.
If you can get them out of the ground.
Well, yeah. If you can get, once they're frozen, then it's a bunch saying that. The red mangoes.
Like a hoop over them.
The red mangoes, they were frozen solid, and I just sliced them up for the rabbits. They loved them.
Yeah, but when they were frozen solid.
But once they froze, if they unthawed, then it was gross because they were just mush.
They went to mush. Yeah.
And that would be the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you would have to protect them a bit, I think.
Yeah. But I think definitely if you put a row cover over them, and we've talked about this as well, we didn't set them up ideally to do a row cover this year because we weren't really thinking we were doing the sugar beets for fodder. But in the future, I think we would probably plant them in a long row so that you could just cover them instead of doing a square formation.
Lots of stuff to think about.
Yeah. Just throwing grass cuttings.
That would work.
Yeah, exactly.
That would work quite well.
That's what I said. I mean, grass cuttings make great mulch.
It's another one of those few uses where cutting the grass makes sense.
Yeah.
But cutting 5 acres of grass maybe doesn't.
No. Well, yeah, that's the thing. We never really do the
big
cut.
The big cut.
It's always our yard is always patchy. There's like this little section just got. You can see it. It's like I work in a thingy, and by the time I get to the end, the beginning is a foot long again.
When you left all the yarrow patches.
Yeah, and then I cut around the flowers and yarrow and whatever because the bees like them and it's pretty. So yeah, parsnips are the same way. We just harvest our wild ones, but yeah, same thing. They actually
come through the winter, no problem.
Oh yeah, and I harvest them right as soon as the ground is thawed in the spring.
Yeah,
and that's when they're the tastiest.
They're pretty good that time.
Yeah.
Now they're getting.
You wouldn't want to eat them now. I wouldn't want to harvest them now.
No.
I'd get all yucked up.
I got parsnip on me, but it's cleared up.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice. No scars.
No. But I think we should probably...
Yeah, I think on that note, I'm yawning.
Wrap it up. You've got to work in the morning, and it's busy.
It's been, as always,
awesome,
been excellent conversation.
Yes. Brussels sprouts is something we did not do this year.
No, not this year, but
it was just one of those things. We weren't sure how much garden we were going to get tilled and ready, so we kind of only went with the essentials. But next year, I think we'll maybe bring them back. But thanks again, everybody. This has been a fantastic chat, and glad we're back in the groove. Hopefully, we'll see everybody again next week. We will be...
yeah, that's the plan. To actually be on again.
Yeah, well, and the one thing, it sounds sad to say it, but we're noticing now the nights are pulling in because... it's starting to get dark at like 8:30. All the chickens are back in their houses because it's getting dark.
Makes it easier.
Exactly. It does make it easier to shut off a little bit sooner.
Yep.
So with that in mind,
yes,
we will say good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
And
we love and appreciate all the support. And we can't wait to see you again next week.
And we'll talk to everybody later.
Bye for now. Oh, as I got to...